Hey everybody, it's Aram Banyan.
Timothy Bennett.
Welcome to B&B Banter Bros.
This is our second podcast. This time it'll be a little bit better.
A little bit better, maybe a little more structured, but we can't promise anything. We're still learning.
Fingers crossed. So, yeah, what should we talk about today?
I don't know. We want to dive into. We can talk about movies. We can talk about music.
Let's.
You want to do movies first? So I thought of a movie the other day.
We're doing movies.
I guess we're doing movies. Sorry, I made the decision preemptively. So I thought of the movie the other day. Did you ever see the movie Sidekicks?
Yeah, with
Chuck Norris and
yep.
Jonathan Brandis.
Yep.
I thought of that movie the other day, and for the life of me, I couldn't remember why I hadn't watched it in so long.
Yeah, that was before he killed himself.
Yeah. Did he kill himself?
Yeah, I think he.
I knew he died. I couldn't remember that he killed himself.
Yeah, I think he hung himself. I actually don't remember. You'd have to look that up. But yeah, I think he killed himself. I think he was like 27 too.
Damn.
Maybe.
I only remember him from like a couple movies. Like he was in the TV version. He played Billy.
Yep, and then he was also in Neverending Story 2.
And then and Sidekicks,
which I always loved.
And he did Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield. It was like when Rodney Dangerfield makes his stepson or like his girlfriend's son dress up as a girl to be on the soccer team.
Yep, I do remember that. Yep.
God,
That's right, Ladybugs. Yeah. My mind they did that several times, but I totally remember.
Oh yeah, it's totally a trope.
One of the few times that they've done that kind of thing, the cross-dressing.
Yeah.
I liked sorority girls or sorority boys with Michael Rosenbaum and
Harlan Williams.
Is it Harlan?
Harlan Williams is the goofy guy.
And then yes, he was. And then yes,
I like that. I had to call him the goofy guy.
The Wookiee pulls the hair out of the sink and makes the Wookiee.
I've actually never seen the movie. I just remember who's in it.
Oh my god, it was good. It also had one of the Lawrence brothers, not Joey, but the second one, the middle.
Matthew.
I think
I think Matthew.
He's like the
one
lead.
from Boy Meets World.
Yeah. He's supposed to be like the lead in the film, but I always enjoyed it when it came to that crossing. Like I remember the '90s with Patrick Swayze.
Tu Wong Fu from Julie Newmar. I think is the full
Patrick
title.
Swayze, it was
Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo. Yep.
And I couldn't get into that one.
It was like the mid '90s, so like I don't think I was even a teenager, right. So like it was kind of beyond me.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's still.
It's probably still beyond me, but yeah.
But I don't know. Those are really the only ones I can honestly say I've enjoyed when it came to that kind of thing.
I remember an old one. It's called Just One of the Guys, and it's about this. It's about a high school girl who ends up being. I can't even remember fully what it's about. To like a certain degree, but like she basically gets mistaken for a boy somehow.
What's it called again?
Just One of the Guys.
I don't think I've seen this.
1985. So I was a year old when this movie was made, and the cover is ridiculous. You can see the cover.
It's very
80s.
It definitely is trying to show the sex appeal behind it, almost like it's trying to be a PG-13.
And the sex appeal part makes no sense because it's supposed to they're teenagers,
right?
And it's a girl standing in the midst of a locker room, with a towel on, facing the camera with football helmets on her chest, surrounded by much larger men,
right?
And it's, as an adult and a father, I feel like it looks way too predatory.
Yep. If I ever saw that in in Blockbuster when I was a kid,
right?
I honestly would think it was like they're trying to do a Porky's thing.
Probably. And this is going to really make me sound like a terrible person, but I can remember, I'm pretty sure that was one of the first movies where I saw a set of boobs. I'm almost
Porky's or this one?
This one.
Oh wow.
Because she has to prove to the guy she likes that she's a girl, and he doesn't believe her until she rips her shirt open.
So did they have nudity?
They had like, I think it was like a 3-second shot.
Oh wow.
This is back in the 80s, so the ratings were a little bit leaner.
Yep. I always thought, because I learned that quickly when I was a kid watching Spaceballs.
Yeah.
And they swore in that, and like I was like, that's a PG film. The rating was rated PG.
And I think Rick Moranis actually yells "fuck" at some point.
Yep. He's like, fuck. Even in the future, nothing works.
That's right.
Yep. Which was probably one of the greatest roles he's played, to my opinion.
Oh yeah.
That's
another movie I thought of Rick Moranis today because I thought of the movie Little Giants.
Oh yeah. I enjoyed that one.
I love that movie.
It had quite the interesting kid cast too. Like,
a
couple of them were like they grew up to.
Oh yeah, Devon Sawa, I think, is the blonde kid. I think that's Devon Sawa. I think. And then all right, yeah.
Oh my
and then
God, he
looks like
he's not aged very well.
Oh, he looks like fuck pie. Ooh.
Well, I mean, he's probably in his 40s,
late 40s somewhere.
50s, yeah. I mean, the first film I really remember seeing him in that I enjoyed, like
Idle Hands.
Yeah, was Idle Hands.
That's the one I remember too.
It was mainly what made me like that film the most was
Seth Green. Yeah.
Essentially, it was
Look at me, I'm Leatherface.
Seth Green, and then his buddy, who was also in Daredevil, and he played.
He was in the Mighty Ducks too. He was
and he was also in like Butterfly Effect. I don't know his name.
Yeah, he was.
But he plays
his real name. Yeah, I couldn't tell you what his real name
is. He plays Matt Murdock's partner.
Yep, Froggy or Foggy.
Foggy.
Froggy was from the Little Rascals
TV series, Netflix series.
Yeah.
But that was the first, like, I remember when I saw Daredevil and I seen Butterfly Effect, I'm always resorting back to Idle Hands. I loved Idle Hands. I thought it was great.
One of Jessica Alba's first movies, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep. It was. It was one of hers because she gets strapped to the top of the car in her underwear.
Who played the older brother? Or not the... It wasn't older brother.
The bully or the big monster truck guy or the...
the guy who, like, for some reason was, like, the good guy but was an asshole at the same time.
I don't remember his name. We can look it up. But I think it's the same guy that was in Fifth Element, who had the big ears. I think it was him when he was talking to the blue lady. He was just that little
the guy that plays the captain, or not the captain, like the first mate.
Yeah, and he's like really nervous talking to the blue lady and trying to escort them.
Yeah,
and he was also in The Medallion, I believe.
Oh, The Medallion.
Jackie Chan.
Oh, I think I've seen that movie once, and I couldn't tell you what the hell it was about anymore.
Let's find out, though.
Vivica A. Fox was the nun, too, in Idle Hands.
Yep. Yep. I just enjoyed Idle Hands.
It was a good movie. It was fun.
It was fun, yep. It definitely was that time when stoner films really started to come a little bit more popular, too.
I remember being intrigued at the idea that he used it as his inhaler as a fucking piece.
Yep.
This is coming from a guy that never smoked pot. Like, it wasn't anything I was into, but I always found the fact that he did it intriguing. Like, I thought that was kind of like MacGyver-ish.
MacGyver-ish. Eldon Henson played
the other friend.
Nub. Who was, yep. And the guy that we were Jack Noseworthy.
Fantastic name. I think he's in there something about Mary.
Event Horizon. So
Event Horizon.
He's in a bunch of stuff. Maybe it isn't the same guy that is in Fifth Element and stuff. He just resembled him a lot.
They did look alike. I'll give you that one.
I'm kind of curious because I'm not seeing the film. But
weird. Fucking weird.
I don't know a lot of the films that what's his name? Devon
Sawa?
Yeah, has been in necessarily, but the handful of the ones I enjoyed, at least, was Final Destination. You know, I really did enjoy that.
Yep.
And I think that was the one, other than Idle Hands, I think that was the only other one that he really broke out in my opinion.
Sure.
But he was also in, was it SLC Punk? Matthew Lillard.
See, I never watched that movie.
No?
It was one of those movies that everyone talked about, and for some reason, like, I resisted watching. I have that same problem with a lot of things. Like, people talk about movies and things that are like, oh, you should watch it. And I resisted for some reason. The same reason I haven't watched all of The Mandalorian yet, because I got tired. I had to wait till all my Star Wars friends stopped touching themselves over it.
It's great. I love Mandalorian.
The two episodes I watched are awesome. I'm
super excited.
I couldn't bring myself to watch it at the time.
It's definitely not it's this guy. So.
Oh, word.
Yeah, I enjoyed Mandalorian. I think it's fantastic. Like, I really love the Star Wars world, but this show, it doesn't jump around so much, which is nice. Unlike every other Star Wars film or whatever, they just jump around so much. And at least in this case, you're dealing with one character, and pretty much your primary focus is that character.
Right.
So you get to see a little bit more.
It's not what's Han doing, what's Luke doing, what's Leia doing.
Yeah, exactly. You get to focus a little bit more on the world that this dude's dealing with.
For sure.
But I enjoy it quite a bit, and I mean, I really like that actor too. So
his name escapes me, but
yeah, I don't. We just watched Kingsman.
Oh yeah.
But first thing I think I really remember seeing him in was Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. I remember the part where he dies.
Oh, it's a badass. It's kind of a badass.
Especially because you think he's winning the whole time,
right? And then he doesn't.
He so doesn't.
Quickly turns against him. But I also like those kind of movies and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this before. I'm one of those guys that, when it comes to endings of films or twisted plots, like, I love the dark and twisted plots are my favorite.
Yeah.
But the more realistic, and especially dark realism that comes into certain plays, like in the end of films, are my favorite. And the number one, spoiler alert, is The Mist.
We've talked about that. Yep.
With Thomas Jane. That ending was great. And the fact that Stephen King wishes that he wrote the ending to that in the book, that's like a huge pat in the back and compliment to the writer. Sure. But it has the best ending because it's realistic. You don't know what's going to go on, so you're just like, oh, we're trapped. Well, what do? Go outside and get eaten and die by all these creatures, or do we just make it quick and painless?
Right.
So they made a decision. They made a choice, and I thought that that was the best decision at that moment to have. And then what happens right after that was just brilliant. The fact that, all of a sudden the fog fades, the mist fades, and you see that the military has come and saved the day. Well, he just murdered 4 people, or 5 people, or whatever. Right. He didn't even have enough bullets to finish himself. So,
right.
I thought it was the best ending ever. Still to this day, I love it.
I keep thinking of the ending to. You watched the movie In Bruges with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson?
Yes.
The ending to that movie, I love the ending to the movie. Between watching Ralph Fiennes think he's shot a child, so he blows his own head off. Oh, spoiler alert! Sorry.
A lot of spoiler alerts.
To the idea that, like, you don't know if Colin Farrell lives through the thing. It was one of my favorite endings.
I do like when...
I love the whole movie, to be completely honest.
It's good. It is a little dry.
It's dry.
It's definitely for a particular group. If you like the British comedy, although this isn't a British comedy, it has a very
There's a lot of British people in it. So, I mean,
it has a very similar styles, that drier kind of comedy. But I just liked when he's making fun of the fat people.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite part. It's like, no, you can't go up there.
No, I'm not kidding.
I just thought it was great. He's such a dick. Such a horrible...
Well, and the best part of that scene is when the family walks away all mad and Brendan Gleeson comes away. He's like, careful, there's a lot of stairs up there. And the daughter just yells at him. He's like, what was that all about? And Colin Farrell's like, Americans.
Right.
That and when they're doing drugs with the midget is probably the other part. Those are probably the 2 funniest parts of the movie.
Speaking of drugs and midgets, Have
goody.
you seen the Knights of Badassdon?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love
Peter
that
Dinklage
movie.
is wonderful in that
Yes,
movie.
and that's exactly what made me think
Peter
of it, 'cause
Dinklage-
he's just tripping on shrooms through half the film.
Who? Oh God! So now I gotta look it up because I gotta remember who it was. There's an actor in that movie who I'd remembered from other stuff.
By the way, I think one of the Critical Roles people.
Oh,
Critical
really?
Role podcast. I think
Oh,
one
yeah.
of them is in that film.
Interesting. Oh God! Google's first thing is to put up Knights of the Old Republic. Damn you people!
When I first saw this film, the only reason why I watched this
Mm-hmm.
was because of Steve Zahn and Peter Dinklage. And
Yep.
then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's the guy from True Blood. And
Who? Which one?
the main guy, the main actor in this film.
Okay.
The one that has his heart broken or whatever. He's the primary. He's in True Blood. He plays Jason Stackhouse or whatever. Plays Sookie.
To be
Stackhouse's
fairly honest,
brother.
I've never watched it.
It's fair.
I've
It's not
thought
for
about
everyone.
watching it. I've heard good things. I just never have.
Okay, so it's not bad. It does kind of.
Well, it's based on books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never read the books. I thought about it, but I don't really care to for some reason. I might one of these days. Just
It's
to
one of
see
those.
what
I
it's
feel like
about.
it's one of those shows where like you feel like if it translates into a book, it can't be that fun.
Entertaining, Yeah. Yep.
I guess like
But
I could very well be wrong, but like
Well,
that's,
but I'm also
sure
one of
that's
those like I want to know what the difference is between the book compared to
Yeah.
the movies, because there are only a couple movies out there that I'm like, oh, that was really close to the book, and I'm sure a lot of
Yep.
people feel that way. And then there are those films that were just god awful. And the
Mhm.
book was obviously 100 times better, and just that thing should just be thrown away. And then you very seldom have the opposite, where I was like, I enjoyed that movie 100 more times than I did the book. I
Yep.
say that about Twilight. I read the first book, I'm like, "Oh, that was sucked." And then I watched the movie, I'm like, I'd rather watch the movie. Not even that
Well, at
great.
least then it moves at a better pace.
Well, and you know what? Actually, the thing I liked about the movie the most, it's just the tone of the film,
Hmm.
the mood, the tone of that film. It has nothing to do with any of the actors or any of the characters. I really don't give a fuck. It has to do with the tone. They appropriately had that tone down, and you get this consistent mood when you're watching it, and that's what I like.
Yeah,
about
because
it.
it's depressing.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Well, I
something.
suppose they live in Alaska, so I mean,
Something like
no,
Washington. Yep.
Washington. Yeah, either way. And if you're mad at me for that, I don't care.
It's Twilight. Get over it.
I was like, it's Washington.
Yeah,
Who cares about that
I
state?
read Twilight book, and I was like, all right, that was kind of annoying. I mean, it's just an entire. I was like reading a teenage girl's diary. She was just insecure and undecisive and whiny and just awkward. And I'm just like, yeah. Now, nothing against Stephanie Meyer's writing, because I've read a couple of her other books, and they're great. Like the Chemist.
The Chemist?
The Chemist was
I
fantastic.
didn't know she wrote that book.
Yep, I
so
really enjoyed
I didn't
it.
know that was a book, to be completely honest. So.
The host, I didn't even bother. I saw the movie first, and I'm like, this sucks. But yeah, I started reading like half of New Moon, which is the second book in the Twilight series. And now, remind you, I read these back when they came out because they were just the talk of the town. Everybody was just gung ho and boners over it, and I was just like, why? I didn't know anything about it, so somebody just like,
Yeah.
well, read the book, and I was like, okay. And I'm amazed that was back when I didn't read. So
Right.
I'm amazed I was able to finish the book. But I started the second book, New Moon. I couldn't get halfway done. I'm like, nope, I'm done. Screw this. And I didn't finish. It's one of the few series that I have that I've never finished.
Right. I'm looking at the cast for Knights. Going back to movies, I'm looking at the cast for Knights of Badassdom.
Yep.
The actor I was thinking of is Joshua Molina. I think he's a throwaway character that I think he's like the first guy that gets killed by the succubus. But
Okay.
I'm looking at the cast. I forgot that Brian Posehn is in this movie. And Knights of Badassdom. He's listed as part of the cast. He's Gilberto.
I don't know.
It's been a long time since I've seen the movie. Brian Posehn you'll recognize by face for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's Brian Posehn.
Yeah,
Great stand-up,
I don't remember
great
him.
comedian.
Yes.
Funny. If you ever get a chance to listen to some of his stand-up, give a listen.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a huge D&D nerd too.
yep, he has his own D&D
Which is why
podcast.
Why this would be perfect for him. Because
Oh
it's
God, yes.
them LARPing. If you haven't seen Knights of Badass, and I think you can find it on like maybe Netflix or something, probably Prime. Whatever.
Amazon Prime, I think, has it for sure.
Definitely need to.
You can
watch
find it.
It's super good, especially if you're a big nerd or if you're into fantasy or LARPing or every quest.
At least
whatever.
rent it if you can't find it anywhere else. It's worth the $3.
Yes, it's good. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Steve Zahn, in my opinion, is probably like the faulty character in that. He's the one that really, like, I watched it because I know who he was.
Yeah.
But his character was kind of like, Peter Dinklage was great because he's tripping on shrooms the entire time, and he just plays this badass. And then the main guy, like I said, who is in
I think his name is Joe.
Yeah, Joe in this one is Ryan
Quanten.
Yeah, who's in True Blood. I've seen him in a couple other things too.
The face looks really familiar, so I've seen him in other things.
What the hell is
I was like, why does that matter? Like, the face looks familiar. Well, he's Australian.
So something about I think it's funny is so he's Australian, and everything I see him in, I don't think he does American accents very well because he just sounds like he's from Texas. But he pulls it off super good, especially in True Blood. He has that southern.
Well,
southern
it takes
drawl.
place in the South, doesn't it?
Yeah, in like Louisiana.
Louisiana?
Yeah. But I enjoyed this guy. I've watched a couple films that he's been in, and
Sure.
I don't know. I like him, but I quite enjoyed this one. So, but the other thing that was a shock when I first saw it was the Summer.
Glau.
Yep.
I think
Because
that's how you spell your name or say your name.
yeah, because I mean, come on. I mean, if anybody who's a nerd of any sorts knows Firefly and Serenity, they know who she is.
Well,
And
anybody that knows, I mean, she does so much stuff. I mean, she's done stints on Arrow.
Yep.
She's done.
She played a badass in Arrow too.
Yeah.
Wicked.
I mean,
Sexy Wicked.
she's aging well. I
Oh, yeah.
got to give her that. I think she was in the Terminator series. I think she was the robot.
Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah. But yeah, any self-professed nerd will know who Summer Glau is, and if they don't, all you just say is River, and they'll probably recognize what you're talking about.
Yep. For sure. And yeah, she's definitely aging very well.
And I want to say this now. You've been listening for a little while. This is how Tim and I are. We start on one subject, like one movie or one actor, and we've moved completely into a different area.
Yep.
And
It's called B&B Banters for a reason.
so this is how it'll go. So if you don't like this, then you should probably just turn it off now. I'm hoping you're entertained.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
And obviously we'll get better at this as we make more. Hopefully.
Because, yeah, we've moved on to Peter Dinklage and Knights of Badassdom from talking about sidekicks with Chuck Norris.
Right. Yeah, we never did.
Who? Okay, so the leader of the other dojo, and I can't remember his name. I know I've got to look up the cast of that now, goddammit.
So the main guy.
Richard Mall is in it, too. We were talking about Richard Mall the other night.
Yep. And that's what I was just going to say.
He's the gym teacher.
Yep.
Chelena!
Yeah, because that's one of the things I remember the most is when he's climbing that rope and he just can't do it, and then all of a sudden Chuck Norris appears next to him and pretty much just walks him through it until he gets to the top.
Freaking Joe Piscopo is the leader of the bad dojo. And if you know 80s movies, you know who Joe Piscopo is. Because he also had an album. I believe he was a musician as well. I think he's got at least an album or two somewhere. But Joe Piscopo is the leader of the Stone Dojo. Bo Bridges. I forgot Bo Bridges was the father of Jonathan Brandis in that movie.
Oh, yep.
Bo Bridges, brother of Jeff Bridges.
Yep.
The less well-known Bridges brother, he's a great actor, but Jeff just outshines him all the time. Is the unfortunate part.
I mean,
but I mean, he's Jeff Bridges. I mean, he's landed other roles that just like outshine him. And Lloyd Bridges probably outshined Bo Bridges too.
Right. I mean, Jeff Bridges is pretty untouchable.
I mean, it's the dude. You can't
Right?
really touch the dude.
God, that's right, Starman.
Mm-hmm. I vaguely remember that movie.
I think that's the cool thing about a lot of the 80s films. Like, as growing up, and you had the 80s and the 90s.
80s and like the very early 90s kind of still did a lot of the same shit.
They kind of did. I mean, they at least... But that's when you started... There was still originality back in the 80s. And in the 90s, you still had originality, but yeah, you started to see kind of like, oh, well, this kind of worked. Or that's when like the sequels really started taking off from anything from the 80s. As in, the 90s, you know. And but that's one thing I liked about then compared to now is originality. You had a lot more original.
Nowadays, like, Hollywood's out of ideas, so they're remaking everything, and
they're throwing more. I feel like they're throwing more money away because it doesn't work, because people don't care or they don't see it, or it's just.
Well, they're thinking like, well, one generation loved it. Why wouldn't the next one? Well, because the next generation is gonna like their own thing. They're not gonna like what we liked.
And there are very few films out there that are original.
Right. It's very true.
One of the films I told you recently was Underwater.
Underwater.
It just came out 2020, so it came out like maybe 3 months ago.
Oh yes.
Kirsten Stewart. I hate Kirsten Stewart with a passion. I
Makes you wish this monster had gotten her.
Well, here's the thing. Spoiler alert: she doesn't make it.
Fantastic. Is this a true life movie?
Right. But the thing about this film was it was pretty original. Now, it's not like we haven't seen this kind of thing done before, but this was well done.
Yeah.
And it was an original kind of concept for the most part. Not entirely, obviously. There's a lot of influence. But the greatest thing about this film, and I didn't know this, I had to do a little bit of research, is it's a Cthulhu-based story. And
really?
I just was like, fuck yeah. But you do not know that while you're watching.
Interesting.
If you do, then you gotta really, really know your stuff, like your stories. You gotta really know H.P. Lovecraft, and you gotta really know things, I guess, about that world, because I would not have known it. But it totally makes sense as soon as I figured it out. I'm like, all right. So the way that the H.P. Lovecraft, I'm spoiling the shit out of this film. We're
gonna have to put spoiler alert just at the top of every episode description.
The way that this story presents the Cthulhu mythos is that they are like, it must be in the future. I couldn't tell you how far. I don't really remember if it said or anything, but it's definitely got to be in the future, fairly near future. And they are a drilling well thing underneath the water. It's like in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. For sure. And they're at like the bottom, and they drill down, and apparently they awaken something. Well, that I guess comes from the Call of Cthulhu, where I guess it's supposed to be, he's supposed to be resting. Cthulhu is supposed to be resting at maybe the bottom of the sea or the ocean or something like that until somehow we stumbled upon it, and that's exactly what happened. Now, you get these creatures that are, like, in this story, you have these, like, little, like, pod kind of creature things that come out, and they're, like, you know, maybe, like, this big, like, the size of a cat or a small dog.
Right.
And then you get these more larger creatures that are kind of like Abe Sapien from Hellboy, but a lot more meaner and uglier, and look more like octopus kind of things. And then, all of a sudden, there's a gigantic one, the size of, like, Godzilla, and that's supposed to be Cthulhu. And I'm like, oh my god, that's brilliant. It was so brilliant. I loved it. And that's what I enjoy. First of all, this film is non-stop action. You're on like a fucking goddamn ride from the get-go. Like 30 seconds, 10 seconds within the film's beginning, shit pops off and it doesn't stop until the movie's over. I was like, that's impressive. And you had a decent cast. Vincent Cassel. He's the captain. He's not in it for very long, but I enjoy him and a lot of the other things I've seen him in. Kirsten Stewart's the only one I don't like, but she did okay. Like she did okay. Her character was pretty appropriate. It was very fitting. T.J. Miller was actually very appropriately funny in a very unappropriate way.
Okay.
So like he was making light of horrible situations but that's kind of like his mechanism.
Yeah.
You know, like they're dying or whatever, and he's cracking jokes about it,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of like that movie we were talking about last night. The one we were.
T.J. Miller.
No, it was about the one with Treat Williams, and they go answer this distress call for
Deepwater Rising or something.
Yeah,
Is
I think
that what it was?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have just literally looked up, since Tim has been talking about,
Cthulhu.
talking about this underwater movie. I've been looking up various underwater movies that I remember as a child.
Mm-hmm.
There's two from the 80s. One is called Deep Star 6.
Yep, I've seen it.
The other one is just called Leviathan.
Yep, I've seen that one.
And
Deep Star 6 was
I can't remember.
to
Nia
me
Peoples, Nancy Everhard, Greg Evigan, and Miguel Ferrer are the first 4 people listed as cast members. I recognize 2 of those names. I recognize the face of Matt McCoy, who's the 5th cast member.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, Leviathan, has Meg Foster, Peter Weller, who I don't know what I can really put him in as somebody that would recognize him. Ernie Hudson from Ghostbuster fame is in Leviathan as well. I'm trying to remember which is which, because one of them...
Daniel Stern.
Was he in Leviathan or Deep Star 6?
Nope, Leviathan.
Okay, because which one?
Leviathan.
Because there's one of them is like they're fighting a bigger monster. The other one like is like a monster that basically starts absorbing the crew members. I'm trying to remember which is which. It looks like Leviathan is the bigger creature.
That one is the one that essentially it's like the thing.
Okay.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They kind of absorb. They kind of melt into one.
Right.
That is Leviathan.
Leviathan.
Deep Star 6 is this like Croatian or whatever.
Crustacean?
Yeah, it's like a ancient crab like monster that lives in the far depth of the ocean that just kind of gets awakened. So,
all right.
Deep Star 6 to me wasn't as good. As
the thing, they came out in the same year.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably
and then you have Sphere.
Sphere is another one. Yep.
You know, it's very similar, underwater kind of concept. Although Sphere was a little bit different because it's based off a book.
Yeah.
Michael Crichton, which the book is actually super, super good. I also feel like when you're dealing with these kind of films, you got to kind of throw aliens in there, even though it's not a underwater kind of concept. It's very similar. If you just take the underwater world and you just throw it in space, it's essentially the exact same thing.
Right.
And I feel like that's where underwater took a lot of influence from these kind of films.
Sure.
To bring that monster film underwater. Because I always like these films that have to deal with the sea because I'm already terrified of the ocean.
Deep Rising is the movie we were thinking of that we were talking about last night.
Mm-hmm.
That all stemmed from me remembering a joke in the movie.
What was the joke again? Tell me about the
they're riding up the elevator and they hear the monster or whatever, and one guy goes, "What's that?" And you can hear elevator music. So one of the comedic relief guy just goes, "Girl from Ipanema."
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, minor side note, Joe Piscopo, who we were talking about just a few minutes ago, Joe Piscopo and Treat Williams did a movie that I remember watching called Dead Heat. It's a very strange zombie-ish movie.
Back in 1988. God, it just looks cheesy from the cover.
So it's pretty bonkers. That may be something you and I have to watch to really grasp how crazy it is.
My God. What is going on? A mutation.
So essentially, let's see if I can find the actual plot synopsis. When a dutiful LA police officer named Roger Mortis, played by Treat Williams, tries to apprehend robbers that happen to be zombies, he ends up as one of the undead himself. Since Mortis has managed to stay in his right mind, he aids his loudmouth partner, Doug Bigelow, who's played by Joe Piscopo, in getting to the bottom of the macabre crime ring. Eventually, the cops track down the villains, including Arthur P. Loudermilk, who's played by Vincent Price. I don't know how I forgot he's in that movie.
Price.
And try to end their supernatural thievery. This movie was released May 6th, 1988.
That was a day after my birthday.
It was over a week before my birthday, and I was 4 years old that year. But yeah, that I happened to see that when we were looking up when I was looking up Treat Williams, trying to find Deep Rising. But yeah, I remember that movie very vaguely. Actually, the movie I probably remember Treat Williams best in is The Phantom, where he plays Xander Drax, the main bad guy.
I don't think I got into Phantom as much. I know that.
I mean, I remember the movie.
Got a cult following.
Well, and see, this is the thing, and you know, it was. So I remember another podcast that I listened to called "How Did This Get Made?" Basically, this was around the same time where they made The Shadow, and these were both movies about comic book or superheroes that no one cared about. Because The Shadow was a radio serial, and I'm pretty sure The Phantom wasn't a really big comic, if it was a comic at that point. So they made those comic book superhero movies, and they didn't do terribly well, from my understanding.
Yeah. Well, and Billy Zane plays the Phantom.
Which I love Billy Zane. I think he's a great actor.
He's very underrated.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the guy. I don't know why he never made it as big as he I feel like should have been.
Yeah.
But I will say that he's probably the closest fucking person that I've ever seen that looks like Marlon Brando. Like, if you would just shave his head like in Zoolander.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how he keeps his head now, because he's got a show, or he did a show on Amazon called Mad Dogs.
Oh yeah.
And his head was shaved in that too. Huh? Yeah, he's still doing stuff.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, I remember him in Back to the Future, and
Billy Zane's in Back to the Future.
Yeah, he plays one of the bully kids.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
If you go back and watch him, you totally know which one it is. As soon as now you know it.
My mind's blown.
Yep, he plays one of the punk kids that picks on everybody.
One of Biff's goons.
Yep, I think he wears the sunglasses.
That's him?
I think, if I'm correct. But
fuck me running. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I like Billy Zane. I think he's been in a handful of stuff. I mean, he was in some large films.
Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Yeah, that's actually the one I was just going to say.
Great movie.
I liked him in that, especially towards the end, because
he was very funny.
Yeah, you get really psychotic at the end.
Yeah.
But yes, that film, because it's Jada Pinkett Smith, who's the main actress.
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that Billy Zane is after. Trying to remember his name.
Who ends up dies and passes on.
Yeah. Hold on, I got it here. William Sadler.
Oh, I know who that is. I know that name.
He was in The Faculty. No, not The Faculty. It was James Marsden. Disturbing Behavior.
Oh, yep.
I always remember him as the janitor.
Yep. He also was Fun Boy in The Crow. Look at this. You don't have much?
I don't think he was Fun Boy.
What's the name? William Sadler?
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I don't think he was Fun Boy.
Bill and Ted. He played the deaf.
He was deaf. Yeah.
Yep.
I just don't think he was. I don't think he was in.
Oh, he was in The Mist. That's right. Shawshank. He's in a bunch of stuff.
Die Hard 2. Forgot about that.
He's not. I could have sworn it was him.
No, I know.
In The Crow. Maybe.
Hold on a second. I'll find out who Fun Boy.
Crow used to be one of my favorite films back in the day. No, it's not him. Who am I thinking of?
Fun Boy was played by Michael Massey, I think.
So what I'm thinking of is, I think for some reason I remember that he the guy who played Fun Boy, was in Supernatural.
Yes.
An
Yep.
episode of
He's the guy that was
Supernatural.
really into Jesus and was
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember the other character's name. But he basically is convinced that Sam Winchester is the Antichrist.
Yep.
Or he refers to him as the adversary.
And he gives Dean like a limited window before he's gonna go. And he's like, "You've got like 24 hours before I go after him," kind of thing.
I don't remember that part.
No, because that's.
I remember the
I think they ended up having the.
the Sterling K. Brown, I think his name is.
Name sounds familiar.
Well, he's on This Is Us. He's the black guy, I think.
Oh.
So he plays
Yeah.
that hunter
Yep.
in. He's the one that convinces Michael Massey that Sam Winchester is the Antichrist. That's the first time we're introduced to him in Supernatural.
Yeah, this dude is phenomenal.
Wonderful actor.
Sterling K. Brown
I actually
is
really like.
phenomenal.
I
Just
used
an
to
amazing
watch Army Wives with Chelsea, and he's really good in that.
He is. Yeah, he's something else. Like he's one of those guys. Like I've told you, we've talked about This Is Us. Like me and Kaylee watched This Is Us, and I was a little hesitant because it just didn't feel like it was something I would get into. But I did, and I quickly got hooked. And every goddamn episode makes you cry. And the crazy thing about that entire show is how the characters are, like their roles, the characters' roles. Not the actors playing the characters. It's the characters' purpose and their roles are switched. The men are the strong, more feminine type, the ones that need to be like, they're more of the nurturers. And then you have the women who are the more masculine and stronger, independent. They're the ones that hold everything together, kind of thing. And it's just incredible on how those reverse kind of roles play, because it's done so appropriately and it's done so amazing, just so amazingly just appropriate. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. It's one of those where every episode wants to make you cry, and it's some dude crying. And he's one of them. He's one of those that gets very emotional, but you feel for his character almost more than anybody else in the show. He just does a phenomenal job.
He's a wonderful actor.
You know?
Everything I've seen him in, he's been good. But yeah, so
and he's really good physically too. Because I watched like, the Hotel Artemis. He's badass in that. I mean, I definitely enjoy him.
How the fuck did we end up here? What was I talking about?
I don't know. This is what happens.
Oh, Demon Knight. I was trying to figure out who the yeah, okay. So yeah, William Sadler is the guy in Demon Knight. Yeah. So whatever.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
enjoy.
I had to finish that thought because it was bugging me that I didn't know what the hell we were talking about
I
anymore.
enjoy William Sadler because like I'm super excited. First of all, his death.
Yeah.
That's the one role like I think that to me is iconic for me.
Like I said,
That's what I think of when I think of that guy.
I always think of disturbing behavior just because his death scene, like when all the kids are swarming his car and he just drives it right off the cliff. And he says, "Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone."
Yep.
I thought
Pulls the pin. Well, and
when James
was
Mark
really like it was very that was the kind of role like as a character role that had an appropriate ending, I guess, for his character, because he's the one that's like he's a janitor, he gets pushed around, he's antisocial, and then he's just like it's almost like it's all an act. Because he's
because he's the I can't remember the name of the guy in the beginning or the lead role, but he finds a book of some kind. I think he finds like Shakespeare or something like that.
No, it was Kurt Vonnegut. It was
that what it was?
Slaughterhouse 5.
Yeah, and he turns and looks at him and he
Like,
goes,
you're
"Haven't you ever
5."
wanted to disappear?"
Right. Yep. And that's exactly what I mean. Like, it's almost like this whole like batnut crazy guy.
Yeah.
He just wants to be left alone. Essentially.
Yeah.
He wants to be invisible, but
yeah,
the way that it's done, I don't know. I thought it was so appropriate. Because then he
for
ends
sure.
up being technically the hero.
Yeah. He saves the day.
Yep. He saves the day, and yes. Yep. He had I actually didn't mind that movie for it being like just about robots, which is crazy because they're like when that kid that goes off about this conspiracy about these kids being robots.
Yeah, Nick Stahl.
Is that his name?
Yeah. He's in like Terminator 4 or something like that. He's in a bunch of stuff. Nick Stahl, he's a really good actor.
Yep, I know the face. I know who he is. I couldn't tell you what I've seen him in. I know I've seen him.
He's wonderful in Carnival.
Yes, I was trying to figure that out. And
Carnival, Great show, by the way.
It sucks that it only had 2 seasons though. They left so many questions unanswered.
Oh god! And I read some interview after the fact, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we thought we answered everything." You didn't answer shit.
You didn't answer it. You built on. First of all, Clancey Brown, hands down.
Oh, great!
Love him in that because
fantastic.
Because he's one of those, the duality.
Oh yeah.
Of everything that he does.
And what's so funny to me is that such a serious and good actor now basically does comedy, and I think it's amazing because he's Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob, and then like I think he has a recurring role on the Goldbergs as like the shop teacher.
I love Clancey Brown. Like
he's a great actor.
Highlander the
Kurgan.
Yep, he
creeped
me out.
Walking around with those stitches on his neck,
right?
From Ramirez.
And he was, I guess, interested in like reprising his role in The Quickening.
Oh wow!
But I guess they didn't want him back.
Oh yeah, well,
or I think it was because he's technically supposed to be dead, you know. So,
but I mean, they basically threw all that shit out.
We're not going to get there.
That's an entirely different discussion.
There,
like that'll be a different episode when we really just want to rage at something.
Right. Between the few things, if you're a big cinephile or you're a big movie buff or film, whatever you want to call it, anybody who's fairly big nerds into movies, I feel like you're gonna touchy subjects. Firefly.
Mm-hmm. Yup.
You everybody who's anybody.
If you didn't like Firefly, you shut your mouth and act like you liked Firefly.
Right. You pretend because people will like murder you over that.
You will get lynched.
One of the saddest things ever, and the most upsetting. It's one of the touchiest things ever. The fact that one season, it wasn't even a finale to the season.
No, it just ended.
They had to make a movie just to
10 episodes, I think they got.
It
wasn't even a full season.
No, and it was just because this fucking studio was like, well, we just don't think it's working out. There's too many things that were competing.
And the stupid thing was, it was doing fine.
Oh my goodness, it had one of the biggest iconic cult following ever for a television show, for a sci-fi television show.
It was being watched on a regular basis.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was being watched on a regular basis, and like the studio exec said, "Oh, we don't think there's a future." And I bet all those guys
are just kicking
got fired.
Oh, they should.
Or should have at least.
There is a documentary about that. That was on Netflix, I think, or something like that. About
really?
Yeah, I think because I watched something a long time ago. I don't remember where, but I remember watching something a long time ago about the whole concept about Firefly. And but it's a sore subject. You don't bring that up in a bar.
Yeah.
Talk about politics and religion all you want, but be careful with Firefly.
You don't bring that up in a bar when people are doing trivia, because those are the nights where the guys that are really into that shit will be there.
Actually, don't bring that up at a convention.
Yeah, don't talk about it at Comic-Con.
And then the other thing is The Quickening.
Yeah.
Yeah. People who are huge Highlander fans.
Somebody went, I want to make a Highlander movie, but I want none of that bullshit they did in the first one to be in there.
Right? Oh my god. And that's just something else that you just it doesn't exist.
Yep. We ignore that problem until it goes away.
Yep. And I won't even get into like some of the things that I've heard about Doctor Who because I don't know shit about it.
I know.
I almost refuse to watch Doctor Who at this point because it's just too much.
Yeah,
there's too much.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't know where or when I would have to start. And I mean, I know David Tennant is probably, as far as modern day Doctor Who's, he's probably lauded as the best one.
Yep.
But I know that there's been a number of them at this point, and I just don't have it in me. I don't have the emotional capacity to invest myself in another show like that.
Oh God, no.
Granted, it's British, so it doesn't run as long as like American TV shows run.
But there's so much of it.
Yeah, but yeah, there's like
started in the 70s. And I've heard you don't even need to watch that beginning stuff because of how many doctors change and all.
Yeah,
this,
I think you can start. I think you can basically start wherever a new doctor starts, but like
I don't know if I want it. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I've always been intrigued with that show, but at this point, I might as well just read up about it.
Right. I think it's cool they finally did a female doctor. Like, I think that's at least an interesting turn. Yeah. I don't know how well she's working out because, be completely honest, I don't care.
All right.
About the show, not the fact that she's a female. I'm not a sexist.
I think it's cool that Neil Gaiman, because I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan.
Yeah.
Like, I love his books, and I just like his writing, and I like who he is, and obviously because he also lived in Minnesota, and I wanted to stalk him for a while. But
I think you can still be prosecuted for that, Tim. So
probably.
may want to watch
I don't
that.
think he lives here anymore. But I know that Amanda Palmer, his wife, is from Minnesota, so I think.
Oh, word.
Yep. But yeah, Neil Gaiman helped write. What was it? One of the devices.
The TARDIS?
Yes, he created that.
The phone booth?
Yep. I think
Interesting.
Neil Gaiman created that. He wrote like a series back a while ago.
I thought you were going to say he invented the sonic screwdriver, which is like the weapon that like Doctor Who uses, the sonic screwdriver.
Oh yeah, no, but yeah, that's Neil Gaiman created the TARDIS, or whatever it is called. Yep.
The tartar sauce.
Tartar sauce. Yeah, I definitely think that when it comes to certain shows, I'm gonna be lost on them. First of all,
for sure.
I'm not that huge of a nerd. I can't even compare myself to some of the people out there.
We are, but we're in different boats because we're not
Yes.
like invested in certain ones. Like, we're not the classic Star Wars or Star Trek nerds. Like,
I mean,
we
don't
don't.
get me wrong. I love them. I love them both. I enjoyed the shit. I grew up watching Star Trek.
I watched some of it. I was like, it's not something I go out of my way to watch, but I know I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation with my grandmother a lot.
That's the one I watched.
So like, I always remember that. Like, I remember Jean-Luc Picard
Yep.
and Data and
Yep.
Geordi LaForge.
Yep.
Um,
I love.
it's
I love
weird
his
that
cameo in Community.
yes, LeVar Burton.
Yeah.
Because he starts singing "Reading Rainbow" to
Yeah.
Donald Glover, and then he just runs away.
Freaks out, screaming. Once again, I think that's a very excellent show. I really enjoyed.
Are we talking about Community or Star
Yes.
Trek Next? Okay, yeah,
No.
Community. Like I
Both.
watched the first few seasons and it was good, but at the same time, I had other shows that I was more invested in, and I've just never gone back.
Yeah.
And now it's on Netflix. I may go back and watch it.
Oh, you should. I enjoyed the shit out of them.
I thought Joel McHale was kind of funny.
Yep.
Donald Glover and Danny Pudi were
Yep.
probably the two saving graces of that show
Yep.
because I will admit, I found Chevy Chase funny at times. He wasn't funny all the time.
No.
Sometimes he was just kind of sadly acting.
You know, and a part of me thinks that because he had a little bit of beef with the writer and
Yeah.
creator of the show, and
Dan Harmon.
Yeah, I guess he fought a lot with him.
It would
so-
surprise me. I heard that Chevy Chase is kind of an asshole to a lot
Right,
of people.
and this is it. I feel like he could be. I mean, he's Chevy Chase. I don't think he's getting a lot of roles anymore. But
No. But I mean, he should be able to coast off of like the money from the Lampoon movies.
maybe
alone.
if they're still coming in.
Well, I mean, that's
People
one of those
kinda
things that.
forget about him.
Well, but TBS runs them, and like TV runs, Christmas Vacation every Christmas.
Which is one of their better ones. I personally.
yeah,
think.
it's
I liked Las Vegas one as well.
Vegas Vacation. Well,
But-
and that was really the last vacation
It
movie.
was,
There was
yeah.
only 4 of them. There was the regular one, European,
Yep.
Christmas, and Vegas.
Yep.
And Vegas and Christmas are probably the 2 most highly regarded.
The
first
European
one-
was good. I love Eric Idle getting the shit kicked out of him. Like he's the guy.
I
on the
personally
bike.
never watched it.
No? Oh,
I think I watched maybe like 20 minutes of it. I was like, I don't need to watch this
It's-
anymore.
It's not bad, but it's definitely. I would say it's at the bottom.
I feel like that one ends up being like the worst of the 4.
Yeah, I think it's just like Eric Idle. He plays the bicyclist who just keeps getting beaten up by this. Keeps running into these family, and this family just keeps terrorizing him. And
That's funny.
and he's just like, why?
Why?
Although I will say, every time I think about the National Lampoon's Europe Vacation, I always think of Married with Children when they do like the Bundy curse or something like that. They take a Europe trip or something
Oh,
like
yes,
that.
that's
There's a
right.
Bundy curse.
And the town is kept in darkness.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yep.
And Marcy and Jefferson get stuck
Yeah.
because they can't fly back, so they end up at a bondage club. That's right.
Which I think, by the way, when you're dealing with like co-stars or side character stories
Mhm.
or whatever you want to talk about, I think those couple were like great because they're the
Oh, yeah.
annoying neighbors
Yep.
of a grumpy old family, and they just hate this family, but yet for whatever reason they still interact.
Right.
It's like you're just stuck with them.
So, and this is So I will say this. I like some of the stuff that he did with Jefferson, the neighbor, the second husband of Marcy.
Yep.
But I actually think I enjoyed Steve more.
Yeah.
Steve was the first husband who comes back and tries to like win Marcy back and all this other stuff. It's there. That's a bunch of shit that we can get into some other time.
Right.
But
Let's be real. Anybody who watched that show only watched it because of
Christina Applegate. I didn't personally like. I didn't find. Well, I mean, she could be funny at times. It wasn't like I found her. I didn't find her that attractive. It's not to say she's not attractive. I just didn't find her that attractive.
18-year blonde. Slutty. I mean,
there's a number of scenes that I always remember, and there's a scene in like the later years where she is working as a mascot for a pest control company, and
I think I remember this.
and so it's Joe Bob Griggs from he did a TNT show where he would show horror movies late at night.
Oh, yep.
The Last Drive-In or something like that. He might have reprised it too. I think if I've seen it.
I remember that show.
But anyway, so it's a commercial they're doing, and he's talking about these like venomous cockroaches and this new pesticide, and you're like, we'll just spray it on her arm, and he's like, well, we sprayed it on her left arm, and she's gonna stick it in there, and she goes, and Kelly looks at him, she goes left, and he goes right, and she goes gotcha, and she shoves her right hand in there, and they're watching the show, and then you see Bud and Kelly sitting on the couch, and her hand is bandaged, and Bud just goes left, right, gotcha. And is like holding his hands in confusion, like, how did you mess that up? It's one of the most memorable scenes for me for some reason because I found it so hilarious. Bud's reaction was like, left, right, gotcha?
Right.
Like,
whatever happened to Bud?
David Faustino, he
fall off the grid.
Kinda.
I don't think I've seen.
He's
him
not really acting anymore. He did. So I think there was a Robot Chicken episode where like the life of David Faustino after, and they got him to come back to do the voice. Yeah. But they made him out to be like an army assassin or something like that, which was ridiculous.
How the hell did that work? He's only like 3'4".
I know, he's a small man.
I mean,
which is I'm 5'6", and I can say he's a small man.
Oh yeah, you should look him up and see how tall he is. I'm really curious. But yeah, he's one of those guys that I always was curious of what happened to him. Like, what happened to Bud? Like, he was good even when he got older too. Like, the older he got, I thought the funnier he became.
The second option on the Google search is David Faustino height.
So it's a very common thing to look up.
Oh, he became a rapper for a while.
Oh my!
I think.
Any good?
I doubt it.
I'm gonna go take a leak here.
He's 5'3", by the way.
5'3".
He's shorter than me. I'm 5'6". So I'm not a big man. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, other than that scene with Bud, I think I don't remember what from that show I really remember. I remember one of the first episodes when Al decides to start his own garden. I'm a little lost as to why he started the garden. But he starts singing about the garden, but he's using the theme from Bonanza as the background for it. And that's probably one of my favorite things.
Wow. 5'3". That's crazy.
So yeah, I think now that Tim's back, I think the last thing he did, he was in The Legend of Korra, which is a cartoon from 2012 to 2014.
Never heard of it.
Oh, he was in the movie Atomic Shark in 2016.
Never seen it.
Well, why would you? It's called Atomic Shark.
I've never even seen the Sharknadoes.
Neither have I. Although I do own the first Sharknado on Blu-ray, still wrapped.
Yeah. We probably should watch that just to see what the hell it was all about. How do you intertwine tornadoes and sharks and make that work?
Well, I mean, I think the concept is like a tornado hits the ocean, which does not happen.
No.
That's not how tornadoes work. But it hits the ocean and sucks up a ton of sharks. And that's what happens.
And they survived how?
Well,
First of all, I know the actor who was doing it.
Ian Ziering from 90210.
Said that he
I think he's Ian Ziering.
yeah, like something that he regrets those roles, and they're pretty much like they've ruined his entire life.
Why? They probably made him a ton of money.
Because it's something that I guess they don't take him serious. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, why would you? He hasn't done anything since 90210. I think he and one of the other guys was in Domino. Like, they were the interviewers in Domino. With Keira Knightley and Mickey Rourke. I think they...
I never got into that film.
It was fine.
It was okay.
I admit...
would prefer Savage.
I will admit I watched it more because I thought Keira Knightley was very attractive.
Yeah. I liked her in Pirates of the Caribbean, but other than that, I didn't really...
She always reminded me of, like, a younger Winona Ryder. Which I don't know why. But, I mean, she always resembled Winona Ryder to me. And
before she stole shit, right?
I don't think Keira Knightley was acting before Winona Ryder stole anything. I think... when
did she steal something like underwear?
I think it was like a purse or something like that. I don't know. Fuck if I know. Side note, talking about Sharknado, Sci-Fi has another movie about sharks that I now have on my Amazon Prime watch list that I will eventually watch, called Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf.
Oh my god.
And I am, at this point, Sci-Fi is just putting out trash that they know people will watch because they did it with Sharknado.
Ridiculous.
They did 5 Sharknadoes and they figured out people will watch anything if we put sharks in it. So they have, and I'm looking at pictures.
Like, do you think they Frankensteined it together, or was it a mutational thing?
I have no idea. But I'm looking at a picture of the whale wolf, and it looks...
The whale wolf. That's ridiculous.
Do not judge me, Tim.
That's a whale wolf. That's great.
I've got pictures of that. I'm looking at pictures of the Sharktopus.
The shark. Oh my god.
Ooh.
That just sounds like a bad porno.
Ew.
Speaking of that, have you seen Teeth?
No, but I know what it's about.
Man, that was messed up. I actually can't say I didn't dislike it or anything. It's just, it was quite disturbing.
So, if you watched Teeth, then the movie you should look up next is called Slices of Life. And
Slices of Life.
So what Slices of Life is it's a horror movie that basically it's one of those, it's not an anthology that tells like 3 or 4 stories. One of them is terribly close to Teeth.
That's probably not it.
No. You want Slices of Life, it's from
Is it like 2000?
2010.
Oh. There's 3 Slices of Life.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. 3 Slices of Life.
I don't know that the 3's actually part of it. Oh, I guess it is. I'm looking at the cover of the actual movie now.
It looks like
me. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah.
But so there's one of the stories is pretty close to Teeth.
Yeah. Girl who has teeth in her vagina.
It's a demon or some kind of creature. From what I remember from the movie, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I was very confused and very off-put. I was going to Danica McKellar from Sidekicks. I was actually just going to point that out to you.
Just talking about that.
She's not in the movie. She's just on an ad on the side of it. I just want to point that out. She did not do a movie about monsters in her crotch.
But still, that's pretty.
But yeah.
Coincidental.
Yeah, for
she
sure.
Popped up when we were talking.
And I'm pretty sure I
Sidekicks.
saw a couple pages ago. I saw Jonathan Brandis on one of them. So, what are you looking up? But yeah, so thinking of Teeth, if you watch 3 Slices of Life, I don't know if that's a sequel or if that's the 3rd in an installment.
Yeah.
There's one of the scenes or one of the things is basically Teeth with a little more Vulgar would probably be the way to go.
Yeah, I would say Teeth wasn't actually all that vulgar. It was just a kind of a fucked up, I guess, concept. I mean, they were actually, it was gross. You know, it was a little bit morbid and stuff. But I mean, some chick that has teeth in her vagina. But the thing that baffled me was that she has teeth in her vagina, but they had own control.
Right.
I just remember like the gynecologist guy was getting ready to stick his fingers in her, and just
Lopped him right off.
But yeah, so Jonathan Brandis, we were talking about him earlier.
Now that we've circled back.
Yep, Sidekicks and Neverending Story Part 2 and the TV series It miniseries.
Yep. Ladybugs.
He died in 2003.
Damn.
At the age of 27 of suicide.
Damn. All right.
I didn't necessarily say how, but
I think he did hang himself. It sounds about right.
it sounds like it was hanged, but I can't really remember. Just sad. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely sad.
Yeah,
no.
I know that Action Jackson. Yeah, that kid. He's also in like Smallville. He was in Johnny Tsunami.
Oh yeah, that guy killed himself too.
Yep, I know he shot himself.
Yes.
I can't remember his name.
Johnny Tsunami cast.
It's crazy, like
Lee Thompson Young.
there. Yeah. I think he shot himself.
Suicide by gunshot. Yep.
Which is sad because I actually really enjoyed him.
Famous Jet Jackson was the show that you were thinking of, not Action Jackson. That's an older movie, I think, with Keenan Ivory Wayans. I think I might be wrong on that one.
Yeah, no, that's actually.
Pardon me.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed him because he played in the last thing I saw him in was Smallville. He plays Cyborg in the Smallville series.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and
that makes sense.
Last thing I remember seeing him in, and then he killed himself. What year was that? 2007?
2013.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. I think he was probably battling depression or something.
Yeah. He's my age. He's born in 1984.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like would have been.
Oh yeah, I mean, but we were at the same age at the time. I'll put it that way.
I'm sure he hasn't aged well.
Depending on if he was embalmed, he might have been. But I mean, who knows?
Or even he may have been cremated. It's
I
getting a little dark.
Yeah, he was 29. Damn.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know. I think it's crazy when you have actors like that, or some celebrities of some sort that end up going through that stuff, because it just really. I've talked about this to you before, and I mentioned it before that we get lost in this entertainment business kind of spiel as just like they're these untouchable god-like creatures, these entities of just fathom and fame, and
sure.
It's just crazy because we forget that they are human beings.
Yeah, they're people.
They are people. Just because they have this certain lifestyle or whatever, but they still have emotions. They still do these things, and people simply can only behave as people do, as humans do.
Yep.
And I think we get lost. So I think that's one thing I love about learning about actors, or like diving further into films and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's because I kind of get an understanding of what kind of connects these things as an art form. I keep it as that. This is an art form. I don't get lost in that, fantasy of starstruck.
Right.
I've only been starstruck once in my entire life when I met a celebrity, and that was Jared Leto. That's because that fucking guy is just a gorgeous human being.
Which, by the way, have you seen the Morbius trailer?
Yes. Oh, it looks
great.
Good. Super good. I'm so excited. Like I can't wait for it.
I was watching a bunch of trailers today for some reason.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
But yeah, I mean, when I met him, he just has those eyes that just like, oh my god, I need to look away.
Stop looking at me like that,
I think
Jared.
the only other person I'd be fucking gun-ho head over heels for would be Ryan Reynolds.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Right. I would probably faint.
I'm not gonna lie. I love Ryan Reynolds. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those people, because it's men and women alike that have gigantic crushes on this man. I think he's hilarious. and all. I don't think he's God's gift by any means, but I think he's hilarious.
Yep. I've always loved Ryan Reynolds. I think he's just I love the way his mind works. He's so witty. He is so naturally talented and just wittiness, like and making it funny, but just how quick. He's so fast at it.
He's a naturally born, like he's like a naturally born comedian.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to try.
No.
That's just the way he is. Have you seen the trailer for Free Guy?
Yeah.
There's one other one I watched today. I thought
I'm
it
looking
looked
forward
great.
to that one. Let's be real. If Ryan Reynolds is in it, I've probably seen it. I don't think I've honest to God, other than when he was like a kid, and even then I watched one of the episodes that he was in where he was like
Of what? I didn't know he was in a show.
Yeah, when he was a kid, he was like, I don't know, 13 years old. He was in this TV show. I can't remember the name of it, but I even watched an episode, and he had like a bowl cut.
Damn.
Doesn't look anything like him, but I've seen just about everything. Like, you know, Two Guys, the Girl in a Pizza Place.
Yep, I remember that show.
Yep, and it wasn't that bad.
No, he was great in it.
Right, you know, some of those lost films like what was it, 9 Lives or something like that, or I can't remember what it was. I probably even have it too somewhere in this bunch, but The Nines, I think is what it's called, The Nines.
The Yards? No, The Nines. You're right. The Nines.
Where he plays like it has to do with like.
It's a family of
a multiverse kind of concept. It's about like him playing like 3 different people in 3 different roles, but,
right here.
But it has to fold in on each other. So it got really like
kind of. I always remember. Like I remember the
Chaos
ending.
Theory. I love Chaos Theory.
Chaos Theory. I watched Chaos Theory because you showed it to me. But I always loved the ending of Smoking Aces. I thought it was a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I love him in Paperman. I'm trying to think. There's a movie that I can only vaguely remember, and there's I'm trying to think of it.
I like the little cameo in Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
As the doctor, he's like, but why?
I
get a little perspiration.
So Ordinary Magic is a movie that he did in 1993. So he's 43 now, so that's how old was he now? God damn it. I don't know what his age is.
I don't know.
Why don't I pay attention to these things? Because he's 43.
Yep,
so,
43.
So 1993 from now. So 27 years ago? Sounds about right. So he was 16 in this movie. It's a vague recollection of this movie that I don't even know if I watched the full thing of. But it basically
Yeah, yep, I know this one.
Yeah.
I've seen this.
Yeah, I remember the part where he's in the hunger strike and like his aunt is doing it with him and like she gets sick or something like that and he's just like trying to tell her like you're not used to it. So and I was like, the fuck is happening right now? Because in 1983 I was 7, so I didn't understand Buddhism for one thing.
This is the show that I watched where he was a kid.
15.
Yep.
And honestly, can say I've never heard of it.
Actually, oddly enough, Kaylee wanted to watch it.
Really?
Because she heard that Ryan Reynolds was as a kid.
Interesting.
Recently, like maybe about like a month ago. She's like,
I've honestly never heard of it. Yep. I don't even know what the show's about.
Canadian show.
Fucking Canadians.
Right? Silly Canadians. Yeah, it was
them their universal health care. Yeah, Ordinary Magic is the movie I really like. Not that I really remember him from, but that's like the earliest I remember him.
Yeah.
And like obviously he was 16 at the time, so I mean, why wouldn't I remember? Like, be the earliest thing.
Dick was.
Never watched the movie.
It's stupid, but he was in it. Also,
Shelley Williams.
Where one of the other films was like where I think it was Michael Douglas plays his dad or whatever, who's like a CIA.
The In-Laws.
yep, and there was
Do you know a movie he was actually really
Oh,
good
sorry.
in? The Proposal with Sandra Bullock.
Yep.
I thought he was great in that. I think Craig T. Nelson is his dad in that movie, and then Betty
Yes.
White's his grandmother.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought
Betty
he was
White.
actually.
Love Betty White.
I thought he
That
was
movie.
great in that movie, especially when Sandra Bullock's trying to climb the ladder and she finally gets away. He's like, "Congratulations, I'm 100."
Right. She wasn't far from it.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds said that part.
The Nines.
Yep.
That's the one. Really interesting concept. Smoking
I-
Aces, Just Friends. I love
Just Friends is a great movie.
When I saw that movie in theaters, and I'm glad I was the only person in the cinema, and I was laughing.
Tim's getting fancy. He called it a cinema.
I was working there too. I was laughing my ass off so hard. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard when him and his brother get together
Yeah.
and just start beating each other
Who
up.
played his brother? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember his name, but he's in a bunch of shit.
I want
too.
to say it's Miles Teller, but
It's not
I
Miles
don't think
Teller,
it's him. It's like impulsively I say it's Miles
The
Teller.
guy who was in Girl Next Door.
Chris Marquette.
Yeah, he
That's his
was-
name.
He was
Yeah,
in a
he's
movie
in-
called The Invisible, which was pretty interesting. Had to deal with death and
Oh, yeah, he was in
The
Girl
Veil.
Next Door. He was in Alpha Dog.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Alpha Dog's a great movie, by the way.
It is.
Um,
I don't really care for it, or I can't say I never cared for it, and then I kind of rewatched it and had a whole other appreciation, especially when I started realizing like Anton was in it. You know,
Anton Yelchin.
when
Yep.
he was younger, and
Yep.
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake is actually very good in that movie.
Yeah.
It's the first movie where Justin Timberlake actually kind of proves that he can do
He can
more
act.
than just sing.
Yeah.
He can do other stuff. I also like Justin Timberlake in Black Snake Moan.
I never saw that.
No?
You know,
Oh my gosh. It's a good movie. Samuel L. Jackson's wonderful in
it
it.
was very controversial too, but
It wouldn't surprise me.
I heard he just beat
'cause-
the shit out of Christina Ricci.
No, it doesn't beat the shit out of her. So what it is she's like a compulsive sex addict essentially. So her and Justin Timberlake are a couple. Justin Timberlake enlists in the army or something like that. He has bad anxiety, but like he goes off anyway. So she, the second he leaves, can't handle the fact that he's gone. She essentially gets into a situation at a party where like a friend of hers like basically tries to assault her, and then he beats the shit out of her and leaves her on the side of the road. Samuel L. Jackson, who is a bitter old man, I say old man, but a bitter old man whose wife has left him for his brother, so he's just angry at the world.
Make me bitter.
He finds Christina Ricci, and for whatever reason decides that she was put in his way to be saved. So he, is trying to care for her, trying to get her better, and because she's compulsive and a sex addict, she tries at one point to like
Seduce her.
jump on him, like literally physically jump on him and try to get at him. And then she runs out like in a fever. One night she runs out into his cornfield because he has a farm. She runs out into the cornfield. So he basically takes a heavy duty chain and wraps it around the radiator and then wraps it around her waist
Keep her put.
to keep her in the house.
See, I guess the trailers make it seem like he's more like trying to beat the good out of her.
No,
to
no,
get
he's
her-
trying to save her
Yeah,
soul.
well, that's what I'm getting at. Like he's trying to beat her to being good.
Yeah,
Like,
no, he basically tries to. He keeps her in place, and he's just.
that makes sense.
But yeah, it's like, and then for whatever reason, like they end up becoming close, and it's not creepy in any way. He actually keeps her like from doing anything physical to him.
Yeah.
There is a funny part where like she kind of has like a meltdown, and a kid that knows Samuel L. Jackson shows up, and she basically commits statutory rape, or starts to at least. And then Samuel L. Jackson finds them in the middle of the living room and like basically kicks the kid literally out the door. But it's actually a very good movie. I don't think it gets enough credit. Christina Ricci is really good in it. Justin Timberlake is really good. Samuel L. Jackson is great in it.
I'll have to give it a shot. I definitely should watch it.
Yeah,
It's been on
it's-
one of those films, things where I've just consistently skipped by because it didn't appeal to me.
It's
Something about it.
It's
just didn't appeal
really
to me.
good. If you get a chance to watch it, I would suggest it. But obviously, I can't make you. But I would say watch it.
There ain't much I won't watch.
That's true. I know that about you. I can get you to watch anything. I have so much control over you.
I'm just one of those guys where I if I'm gonna have a say if it's crappy or good, if I'm gonna have a solid opinion about it, I need to know it. So like, I think that's one thing about books is I don't care what other people say about it, because I've definitely found what most people say about certain things, I completely think the opposite. But I also feel like I have a little more honesty with the whole spectrum of what somebody's doing. So if it's a crappy movie, I could probably point out the things that I thought were good, or why it's crappy or why it's good, and give some credit when credit's due. I think that's the thing that people don't do. They don't give the credit when credit's due. They just think that because they didn't like it, that it's a piece of shit.
Right.
That doesn't make it a piece of shit. Just because you didn't like a book doesn't mean it's bad writing.
Right.
You just didn't like it. It's a preference.
I may say certain things are trash or garbage, but at the same point, I can at least respect that someone made the attempt to put something into the world.
Yeah.
Which is more than other people can say.
Right.
Like, certain people are like, oh, this was terrible. Well, what the fuck have you done?
Right. Yeah.
Like, what have you contributed to the world besides whatever you do at your job?
And I think that's why, I'll read just about anything. Like, somebody told me to read Twilight, so I read Twilight. Kaylee gives me shit about it. So what? I fucking read it. At least it's more what you can say.
Yeah.
You never read it.
I've never
even seen the books, or I've seen the movies. So you think they're a piece of shit because everybody else thought they were a piece of shit. But you have no actual opinion.
I've seen most of the movies. I didn't have any care to read the books.
Yeah.
They never appealed to me. I watched the movies because of Chelsea.
Well, she's into the young adult.
And even she'll say, like, going back, like, they're trash. But
and like I said, I would rather watch the movies than I would than read the book. But then again, it's because I did read the book. Oh my god, it was so tough. And I only liked the first movie.
Sure.
I don't care about any of the others. I really don't. Like, either way, it's a lose-lose situation. Anyway, this chick needs therapy.
Oh, yeah.
She needs some help, because she's either going to be a necrophiliac or she's getting into bestiality, and either way, those are wrong.
And illegal.
And illegal, no matter where you are.
Right.
And
everyone frowns on it.
But I will say that the worst thing that Stephenie Meyer could ever have done is make sparkly vampires exist. She thought that she was being clever, and really what she had just done is put a bullseye on her back.
I mean, I get what she was trying to do, like, to make it to go against the trope of, like, oh, they can't go in sunlight, because that's just too hard to explain. But to make them sparkle?
See, that doesn't make any sense to me, especially when they die. They're like, they die, and then they come back, and then they're sparkly?
Right. It's because you die in glitter.
Right? Like, what is that? But I don't know. You can try to be different all you want, but essentially that was the worst thing that she could have done, was make them sparkly.
Hey, but at the same time, she got a big audience because of that shit. I mean,
well, yeah, and you know what the primary audience
she made
was?
It work.
Women, girls. Yeah, can't say women. Mainly girls, teenage girls. But why? Because she's a woman who was a teenage girl. She can relate.
She knows how to appeal to a certain class.
She knew, and that's what I said. Like, reading the book, I was like, man, this is a teenage girl diary, and it's just stupid. Like,
right.
It's so annoying. All she does is complain. Like, I'm confused. What do I do? Pick a side and go for it, or just drop it all and figure something else out. But it makes sense because it does really hold close to that whole teenage mentality of, like, you're trying to find yourself. You're kind of stuck in this big old world, and you don't know where you belong. And I mean, every person kind of goes through something like that in some stage, and it just happened to be she was into vampires.
Right, for sure.
Sparkly vampires.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't even remember what we were talking about. We just went on another freaking tangent.
I don't remember either.
I think I started talking about. We were talking about
Talked about Black Snake Moan.
Yeah. And I think I went on to just having an.
Oh, because we were talking about Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
Because we just saw Alpha Dog.
Yeah.
I think is what we talked about. Yeah.
And what were we talking about before that? We started talking about Ryan Reynolds. We started talking about just this is our just friends, and then you were wondering who the brother was. Yep.
Yep.
That's where we were going from. Anyway, I don't know. I will say one film that Ryan Reynolds has done that just I couldn't really get behind. Was R.I.P.D. I can get behind X-Men Origins over R.I.P.D. because at least X-Men Origins is still comic book based, and I feel like it's Wolverine essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's Hugh Jackman. I love Wolverine. I've always loved Wolverine. But R.I.P.D. was just god awful. I think the only thing I liked about that movie, other than Ryan Reynolds was in it, was Kevin Bacon.
See, I never watched R.I.P.D. I remember Jeff Bridges is the partner, and you wonder if that was just a cash grab.
I feel like it was. I don't think it. I thought that
I'd have to look at his the point in his career.
Well, I have it somewhere in here.
Well, I'm just saying, like maybe it was like in the midst of like something else that was going on, or like he didn't have a lot of work at that point.
Jeff Bridges or Ryan
either one of them.
I think
because it sounds like either one of them was really above the movie, and they did it anyway.
I think it's just one of those. I think it had to do with studio control. I think the studio.
Oh, like they had like a contract
names,
and like
just grabbed these names and said, "Well, this will help sell the film." They're both big people, you know. You have iconic movie star legend like
Jeff
Bridges, and then you have a hot shot, up and coming, popular young guy. Well, I can't even say young because this was 2013.
Yeah.
Person like Ryan Reynolds, who's very popular, and then you have Kevin Bacon, who's another one. People know who he is. Because he sizzles.
Right.
So, although, fucking that goddamn Footloose movie. Not Footloose.
The remake?
No.
He was in Footloose.
Yeah, that's the one with the town that can't dance.
Yeah, Footloose.
God, the stupidest fucking thing. The only thing about that film that justified, in my opinion, was I think it's John Lithgow.
Yeah, he's the father. He's the preacher, I think, or the mayor. I've never watched it.
All
so
three of them, probably. But
very true.
Oh my god, it's a town that
I can't even remember why they outlawed dancing.
It's the stupidest premise to a film. These teenagers, this whole little town, banned dancing because somebody died in a car accident because it was a dance off and then it led to a car accident. And I believe that's how it was. But either way, somebody died, so this entire town banned dancing.
Yeah, it's...
And then there's rebel teens like, we gotta dance! So we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna do it behind the backs. We're gonna set up this old underground dance club in a factory.
Right.
And then, but the fight scenes, I'll be honest, were ridiculous, and yet, for some reason, it was a huge hit. I don't know why.
I think, honestly, at that point, I think Kevin Bacon was kind of an up-and-coming star, so I think he had something to do with his name.
He was still working in a diner when he was doing that
Was
stuff.
he? Oh, was that his first movie?
Animal House was his first film, and he had a small
I forgot he was in Animal House.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
That's right.
And then it was.
I'd forgotten about that.
And he probably had like another 1 or 2 films, but he was still like 19 years old, and he was working in a diner while he was doing these films. So, but yeah, I don't know. Let's move on from that.
Kevin Bacon. Did you watch the show The Following?
Is that with
Kevin Bacon and James Purefoy?
Is it like the serial killer?
Yes.
And Gillian Anderson? Is that the one with Gillian Anderson? No, maybe it's not what I'm thinking of. I feel like I have seen
The Following was Kevin Bacon is an ex-FBI agent that they bring back into the fold to catch this serial killer who basically has a cult following at this point.
Okay.
And basically he has followers that are committing murders in the same style.
Yes,
to help him or whatever. It's the first season is good. But once the second season kicks off, things quickly dwindle into convolution. Because all of a sudden there's these other family of serial killers that are helping, and like there's all this, I couldn't keep track of what the fuck was going on at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a good cast though, if I can find the cast.
I think I started watching. I think I may have watched like the first episode, and I don't think I would followed or I finished anything further. Because I remember giving it a shot.
So it's Kevin Bacon, James Purefoy, Sean Ashmore's in it as like the FBI agent that like gets teamed with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, those Ashmore brothers are pretty decent. I feel like they were very underrated.
For sure.
They don't really stand in the spotlight, but I enjoy them.
Yeah, I think they're good too. Connie Nielsen is in the second season. The hell is she in that you would know? The Devil's Advocate. She is the lawyer, the daughter of Al Pacino.
Oh, okay.
That's Connie Nielsen. She's probably the other big name in that show. Devil's Advocate is a great movie.
Although I have a hard time with Keanu Reeves' southern accent. It's a little tough to get behind, but it's a great
You'll
movie.
have to listen to How Did This Get Made, the Devil's Advocate episode, because they talk about that.
Do they?
They talk about it.
I mean, it was a little
for
tough.
a good 10 minutes.
It was a little tough, but it was a phenomenal film. Like
I loved it.
the concept. It had one of those perfect slow building.
Yep.
Where you're like, okay, it's just like a courtroom film, crime drama, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then it quickly twists into a supernatural film, and
But
you're
see,
just like, what?
And this is something that like they talk about in How This Get Made, but they give away that Al Pacino's the devil in the trailer.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, it's not a big surprise.
But the idea about it was you're supposed to think that it's just a expression of himself, not that he's actually
He
the
sticks
devil.
his fingers in the holy water and it starts to boil in the trailer. That's in the trailer. So they were broadcasting the Devil's Advocate part.
Well, then again, look at the cover of the film. It was very blatant.
Yeah.
That this is going to be something of that kind of sort. Like,
Right.
But the fact, but how it was done though.
And don't get me wrong, it's a really I like the way it's done.
It's one of the few Al Pacino films I actually really, really like. I don't know why. I'm just not a huge fan of Al Pacino. I know people are going to hate me for saying that, but
I have certain Al Pacino films that I enjoy. Righteous Kill, I think, is really good. Him and Robert De Niro. Wow. Robert De Niro.
It's not even that late.
I know, right? Him and Robert De Niro as cops, I thought it was very good. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I thought the movie was really good. I think the fact that Rob Dyrdek is in it for a little bit is really funny to me.
Is he really?
He is. He's one of the first guys that gets murdered.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, so Righteous Kill, I think, is a really good Al Pacino film. I love Scent of a Woman.
I haven't seen that. I need to, though.
Scent of a Woman is
Heat
probably
was
one
the
of...
I liked.
So Heat is probably one of his most well-known because it's him and De Niro.
Yep.
And then the next him and De Niro movie was Righteous Kill. So, like...
Yeah. Or, well, isn't De Niro also in one of the Godfathers? Or...
Nope.
What am I
That's
thinking?
James Caan, maybe. De Niro was in Goodfellas and Casino.
Casino, but wasn't Al Pacino in Casino too?
No. Joe Pesci was.
Oh, maybe I'll
Joe Pesci was in...
I can't get
I
any
think
of
Joe
those
Pesci was. Joe
fucking-
Pesci was in Goodfellas. I'm pretty sure he was in Casino, too.
No. Yeah.
I think the only two movies he's done with Robert De Niro are Heat and Righteous Kill.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Godfather, right there, part 2.
He was in The Godfather
Yeah,
Part 2.
Vito Corleone. But that's why I was thinking he was in The Godfathers. He was in one of them, but I haven't seen The Godfathers for a while, but
I've only seen him like once, so I don't know.
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I was never big into like gangster movies, so like,
or
mafia movies. I shouldn't say gangster; it's a
Yeah,
little
mafia
broad
movies.
term, but like
They're-
mafia movies, I wouldn't really.
they're a
into.
hit and miss for me. There are certain ones I really enjoy, and then there are certain ones that I just don't care about.
Like I've watched Scarface, and it's fine. Like
I don't like Scarface.
it was one of those things. Like, and I've watched The Godfathers, and they're fine.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's just not my style. It's not something I'm interested in, so I don't watch them that much. Probably the closest thing I get to in that is Gangs of New York.
Yep, I like
Gangs of New York is probably one of my favorite films.
I liked American Gangster.
With Denzel and Russell Crowe.
I enjoyed that one.
I've never watched that one. I've heard good things about it. I've heard Denzel gives a really good performance in that one.
But I agree with you when it comes to the gangster films. I'm not all that big. I mean, I liked Revolver, and I like Snatch. I mean, you're kind of spinning off gangster films into something a little different.
Right.
Or even I actually quite enjoy Peaky Blinders.
See, I haven't watched a whole lot of that. I started to, and then I moved on to something else, so I haven't really gotten into. I've heard good things about it. I just haven't gotten to it.
It's good.
Cillian Murphy, I think, is a really good actor.
I love that guy. I feel like another actor who's super underrated. Everything he's done, I think he puts on a great performance, like him himself.
Yeah,
he does a fantastic job.
I think people forget like he's in like 28 Days Later.
Yeah, he's the main guy. He's the guy who wakes up in the hospital.
Yeah,
and
I think people forget about that.
Right. Well, it's because he's covered in a beard. And he's skinny
and he doesn't look good with a beard.
Young.
He's not a
he
good
looks
beard
anorexic.
guy.
I mean,
and he's supposed to. He was stuck in a coma, and no one was feeding him. So
it's true. Like, but you definitely you have to know, and it's very appropriate because I think they were in because he's Irish. I think he's Irish. So, and he had his Irish accent, not English accent, but I think they were in
28 Days Later.
Yeah, like he had.
It's been a while since I watched it, but yeah, I'm sure he did.
Yeah, I love 28 Days. First of all, the other
28 Weeks Later?
No. Oh. Well, I like 28 Weeks Later.
I think Robert Carlyle was good in that, but that's besides the point.
Jeremy Renner was in it. He plays the army guy that was pushing the cars. I think it's
that's another one that's been a while since I watched it. I just remember Robert Carlyle from 28 Weeks Later.
Robert Carlyle. Yep, Jeremy Renner's right there. Because he's like... He's like the soldier. I think this was right after Hurt Locker too, or right around the time he did Hurt Locker. But he was the soldier. He was like trying to help them escape. Yeah, Robert Carlyle. I mean, that dude. And Ravenous, just fantastic. But even better, Rumpelstiltskin and Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, he's great in that show.
Yep, he essentially was the one that kept me watching that show until it kind of got.
Until the main people left, and like it became something entirely different. Like, I kind of watched up until that point, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I don't care anymore.
First 2 seasons were pretty decent. Well, the first season was great. The second season was decent. But then they just started compiling and compressing all these fairy tales into one long...
Well, the one I didn't get was why are they bringing, like, Frankenstein into fairy tales? Frankenstein is not a fairy tale.
No.
Like, I mean, at that point, it's just literature.
Well, when they brought Peter Pan... Right.
Yeah.
And the way they did the whole Peter Pan thing, first of all, it was a darker side of.
Yeah, it was a very interesting take on Peter Pan.
But the fact that it was supposed to be like Robert Carlyle's
dad.
Yeah, and like I'm just like, oh god.
Yeah, they started. Everything was. It became a soap opera almost really like that. Like everybody was related, or there was some sort of scandal.
Yeah, and I just. After that, I lost interest. I stopped after that episode. I stopped.
Well, and then Regina's mother got involved, and Captain Hook was in cahoots with her, and
I didn't mind the guy who played Captain.
The guy who played Captain Hook is great. I liked him a lot. Emma, I always remember from House.
Yeah, Jennifer
Goodwin. Morrison.
Well, Jennifer Goodwin was Snow White.
Yeah,
and then
I knew one of them was Jennifer Goodwin, but Morrison, she's one of the original interns from House.
Yep.
Pardon me.
I remember her from Grind.
God, it's been so long since I watched Grind.
Oh, I love Grind, man. Mike Vogel.
Grind is a great movie.
Adam Brody. I love Grind. I still have that poster.
Sweet Lou cleans no man's poo.
Yep. Yeah. I can't remember his name. I actually just recently watched a film that he directed and starred in with. God.
I always remember that guy from
Super Adam Brody and somebody else.
Really? I always remember him from Super Troopers, and he's sitting in the car, and he's the guy with the drugs.
Like, Cabin Fever.
I don't remember him from Cabin Fever.
He's the douchebag in Cabin Fever.
Oh man, I watched Cabin Fever once and then promptly forgot it because like I can't keep that in my head.
You know, it was a pretty intense film when it came out, like right away.
Yeah.
But it quickly dropped off.
Right.
It was like.
Did you watch the sequel?
I don't think so.
Because
I don't recall.
The main guy, I can't remember his name, Sean from Boy Meets World. I can't remember the actor's name.
The main star in the first.
Yeah.
Comes back.
For like the first 5 minutes. Essentially, he gets dumped in a lake or something like that, and then wakes up.
Maybe I have seen.
And then he's like running through the woods, and he runs out on the street, and then gets hit by a bus.
Maybe I have seen. That sounds awfully familiar.
And so he's got his remains, because this is all due to necrotizing fasciitis. In case anyone hasn't seen the Cabin Fever movies, I just blew it for you. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
It's all about necrotizing fasciitis and people freaking out and not getting fucking medical help.
Yep. Kind of like the whole COVID thing.
But yeah, so he in the beginning is like running through the woods, and so his remains are all over the bus, and then the bus driver like tries to get it off the bus a little bit, and then it splashes on him.
They made another one, or is it supposed to be a remake?
I think that might be a remake.
Oh God, that should not have been remade.
But I mean, yeah. The fuck happened to this world? That does not look right.
There you go.
There's the original. Yep.
So that's the problem with Eli Roth's films. Cabin Fever, the Hostel films.
Yeah.
You remember them. They're disturbing as fuck.
Yeah.
And they kind of fade away. Although they made 3
Evil
Hostels.
Dead.
Did he do the Evil Dead?
Evil Dead is an Eli Roth movie, I'm pretty sure.
Did he really?
I almost
not
positive.
the original, but
yeah.
the remake.
I think the original was an Eli Roth movie.
No, it was Sam Raimi.
Oh, I always get those two confused.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
2 different people. Sam Raimi's been a lot.
Well, of course they're
Hercules.
Of course they're 2 different people.
Evil
I said
Dead.
I get them confused.
He did Xena Warrior Princess. He did the Spider-Man movies.
Right. I don't know why. I just get them confused. Don't you judge me.
I've kind of been Eli Roth is a hit and miss for me. I don't think he's terrible. He's definitely made films. I'm like, oh fuck yeah.
But I feel like you're right. Like thinking about like Hostel. Like I don't remember much of the movie. I remember 2 scenes. The part where the guy's Achilles tendon gets cut.
Yep.
Because it makes me cringe.
Oh yeah. And that guy continues acting.
I just thought about that and I had to shake myself out. But the ending when the main guy cuts that other guy's like fingers off or something like that. He's in the bathroom stall. It's like the very end of the movie. And like he like passes a note.
Oh yeah.
And the guy reaches for it and he just takes a knife and just hacks off one of the fucking fingers.
Nope.
Those are the only 2 parts I remember about that movie.
I don't mind them. The first and the second one at least. I actually don't remember if there was a 3rd one or not. I feel like there was. But
I think there was. The reason the Achilles tendon part bothers me so much.
Because it should.
Because it should. And because I had my aunt ruptured her Achilles tendon. And she described the feeling as like feeling a rubber band in your foot just relaxing.
Oh.
So like, because that's what a tendon is it's stretched really tight. So when it lets go, it just fucking relaxes.
Yep.
And so she's like, her description of that, and then thinking about that scene in Hostel, I was like, ah.
Yeah, I cringe too at that. I can deal with almost everything else that's going on, but I cringe at a couple things in movies.
Yep.
And that is when bones break. It's just that initial snap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ooh, just cringe. And then there's certain things like the Achilles heel.
There's 2 scenes in movies that I can readily recall that make me cringe. One is the Achilles tendon piece. Oh yeah, you didn't know they were making a movie?
No.
Tim just found out that they're making
is directing it too. Oh.
Tim just found out they're making a Borderlands movie, and Borderlands is one of his favorite video games.
Yes, it is. I'm so fucking excited. Oh, when?
I don't think they're even finished casting, so it's going to be a while.
It's in pre-production, so it's going to be like another 5 years. Fuck
right.
yeah.
Anyway,
Woo.
the
Shit, that's Lilith. I can see that. Sorry.
no, I was trying to actually get my words out at this point. That wasn't me. That was me clapping because I was frustrated because I couldn't actually form a sentence. But the tendon scene in Hostel, and then the scene in Saw 2, I believe, where the larger criminal picks up the girl and tosses her into the pit of syringes.
Yeah.
And as someone who has been pierced numerous times, that still gives me like uncontrollable shudders when I think about it. Because I was, as a child, obviously like most children, I was very scared of needles.
Yeah.
But that for me is one of those scenes that like I can't really watch very well.
That definitely makes me do ugh. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as
It's definitely not as bad as the Achilles tendon being severed, but for me, it's like I could feel each one of those pricks, and it's just like, nah.
But other than that, there's not a lot that bothers me.
No, the only other thing I think I've ever cringed was watching Jackass when they were giving themselves paper cuts and like the webbings of their fingers. Ugh. That makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah, I can't get Jackass in general.
Don't get me wrong. I've watched it and laughed at it, but there's plenty of stuff where I'm like, that's not smart.
It's just a bunch of idiots, and a bunch of jackasses, of course.
Right. I mean, they knew it.
Oh yeah. I showed you Clown, right?
Yes, I watched it.
Yeah.
Yep, I watched it.
Eli Roth plays the main guy.
Oh.
That's him. He plays this clown demon figure. I actually quite enjoyed that film. It was very, very like low key.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very well done.
I thought it was pretty well done. But yeah, Hemlock Grove. I think I told you that was one of the episodes.
I haven't finished it, but I've watched some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it. Now that's Eli Roth. There's from the minds of Eli Roth, but
Interesting.
I know
Okay.
he directed at least it looks like one episode, the first episode. I know he had a hand in it. I think he produced the show, but he really had a nice spin on the whole vampire and werewolf thing.
Yeah.
It was unique and original, especially the vampire side, and I really liked kind of the story behind all of that. He really gets kind of the back, like he gives everything a backstory, and it's very well done. So I really enjoyed Hemlock Grove for that. And then they created this kind of weird evil guy towards the end of the season, towards the end of the actual
Series
show
itself,
series, yeah. And it just fell apart for me. I couldn't accept it.
Like all of a sudden they were just trying too hard.
Oh,
And
it was
they were
bad.
running out of ideas and trying to put shit together.
I don't even know. It just wasn't a good character.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you. I mean, first of all, I love Bill Skarsgård. Like I loved the Skarsgård family.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
Bill,
yeah.
that was the first thing I ever saw Bill in. So I had a lot of appreciation for it because I really liked his character. But
He's a wonderful actor.
the bad guy that I'm talking about. Have you seen the new Netflix series like October Faction or whatever?
Mm-hmm. I've never watched it, but I know the show you're talking about.
That main guy,
The dad?
the dad.
Oh, okay.
He plays the bad guy in the season. This weird demon creature bad guy.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I just could not get behind the creature. I didn't mind him as the actor in it, but I couldn't get behind this creature thing that they created. And it kind of just ruined the seasons for me, or the series for me.
J.C. McKenzie is that guy's name.
But yeah, I don't mind Eli Roth. He does have quite the interesting, disturbing mind. I'm all about that kind of stuff.
I'm going to move away from Eli Roth because I just saw Lightning Jack. Lightning Jack on your shelf.
Oh, with Paul Hogan?
I love that movie.
Yep.
Cuba Gooding Jr. and Beverly D'Angelo.
Yep. And Paul
There's-
Hogan. First of all, the fact that Cuba is a mute.
A mute character, yeah.
It's probably the best thing you can do for that guy.
I don't know. I think Cuba's a really good actor. I think he doesn't get the...
Have you heard him now, though? I think he's done something to his voice. I don't know what happened, but
He might have gotten old.
it's true. He got old.
Yeah. I think that's
don't-
part of it.
Definitely got old. I've never disliked him, but he
he's had very few like breakout roles. Like he's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously Jerry Maguire was a big one. Radio was another big one, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
But like he doesn't have a ton of stuff that comes to mind.
He's in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. But yeah, it's Men of Honor with Robert De Niro.
Yep.
Great movie, by the way. But like he doesn't to me have the list of movies that he comes forward in as like the guy you think of when you think of that movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot.
He's kind of forgettable.
He's always
unless you see him and you're like, oh yeah, when he's kind of forgettable.
He's a great supporting actor.
I think that one of the films that I honestly could say that really stood out for me was Boys in the Hood.
Yeah. I've never watched it personally, but I know that's one of those movies.
It's good. In
my mind, I think of the cover, and that's Cuba. So like I know
Cuba and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
And oh god, I just forgot his Morpheus.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Thank you. I just had a complete blank. Because he plays his father, Cuba Gooding's
word.
father,
Okay.
Who like left and then kind of comes back into his life and pretty much raises him right, essentially.
Yeah.
But that's a very, very excellent film to really learn about the inner street kids, like inner city kids in the projects and stuff like that. Especially Cuba's part, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s part was very essential because he's essentially growing up to not be a hood rat or whatever they call it, or a gangster, or getting in the wrong side of the law. He has a good education. He's like going to college and all this stuff. So he's trying to make something of himself and not stay in the hood. Unlike his friend Ice Cube, pretty much is stuck in the hood.
Right.
So
Lawrence Fishburne, by the way, one of my favorite roles that I don't think anyone ever really remembers that he's in is Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Yeah.
Wonderful movie. Him and Ben Kingsley are great.
Ben Kingsley. Can't even touch that guy.
No. Have you seen... This is another jump, but speaking of Ben Kingsley, there's a movie called The Whackness.
The Whackness?
Yep. So it's about this kid in like the early 90s who is he basically lives with his parents, and he deals pot, and so it's not Drake from Drake and Josh, but it's Josh, whose last name escapes me. But so essentially he starts to it's about the people he starts interacting with.
Yep.
Like Method Man is his supplier.
Oh, yep.
And what's really funny is you meet and see Method Man once in the movie, but at that point he's listening to Notorious B.I.G. And it's like he's like, oh, this is the newest stuff on the airwaves or whatever. It's like he starts talking about Notorious B.I.G. for a minute. It's from 2008, by the way. But so it all takes place in like the very early 90s. So yeah, he's dealing pot, and he begins making friends with like Ben Kingsley is the guy that he ends up. So Ben Kingsley is his therapist, and he's basically paying Ben Kingsley with weed.
Oh, yeah.
And Ben Kingsley's going through some shit, and then at some point, I can't remember it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but at some point, they meet one of the Olsen twins, who is like this weird hippie chick, and it's a terrifying sight. But her and Ben Kingsley start making out and like dry humping or something like that, and it's horrifying. I blocked it from my memory. I just know that it happened. But it's actually, and I'm probably painting a really strange picture of this movie, but it's really well done, and it's a really good story, because at the time, like, he's got, he's a virgin, and he's kind of going, like, he's a typical teenager. Like, he's got self-esteem issues. He's nervous talking to girls and stuff like that. But he meets a girl that he's very into. And it's Olivia Thirlby or Thirlby.
I don't even know who that is.
I've seen her in other stuff. I couldn't tell you what. But so he meets her through another guy that he deals pot to, and they start something of a relationship. And the ending is good, but not happy. Like, there's this great line. Okay, I'm gonna have to explain myself, and I'm gonna have to spoil the movie. So, spoiler alerts. Don't worry about the ending. Watch the movie anyway. So essentially, something happens, and the main character has to leave. I think his name it's Luke, apparently. So Luke has to go away to do something, and then he comes back, and the girl he's seeing, Olivia Thirlby, he goes to see her, and then finds the guy that he originally met her through at her place, like in her bedroom, like figures out that she basically slept with him while he was gone.
Oh.
And so, like, this is his first real relationship, and he takes it pretty well, from what I remember, because, like, there's this part where he's walking away, and he's like, and I'm probably going to butcher the line, but he's talking about, I've never had this happen before, and she's like, what? He's like, I've never had my heart broken before. And he kind of just smiles about it, and, like, knows that it's kind of just one of life's little things, and kind of just moves on, and that's the end of the movie. Like, the movie doesn't last more than a few more minutes. But, like,
Just kind of that.
It's kind of a coming of age sort of movie. Like, he gets that, like, okay, the worst has happened.
Yeah.
And it didn't, the world didn't end.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
He's still alive. He's still moving on. Yeah.
It's another movie that you should watch.
Yeah.
It's really well done, I think. I think it's got plenty of funny points. Josh Peck is his name. A critic review says it's an unlikely buddy comedy that comes to life whenever Kingsley appears. He doesn't so much steal the show as roll it into a fat blunt and smoke it.
Dude is one talented son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He's pretty much got his hands on almost everything.
I remember watching him in Suspect Zero. It's him, Aaron Eckhart, and somebody else.
I couldn't.
But it's about, he's like an FBI agent or something that was, he basically kind of goes off the rails trying to find like a serial killer. Let me see if I can find the whole thing, because I'm not doing it justice. I just remember bits and pieces of it.
So Aaron Eckhart is the agent?
No, I think so Aaron Eckhart is an FBI agent that's sent to track down Ben Kingsley, who is another FBI agent that kind of went off the reservation.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Here it is.
I think Aaron's got kind of an underrated thing about him.
Carrie Ann Moss is in it too. Sorry.
Because I really like Aaron Eckhart, and I actually enjoyed the core. Although Stanley Tucci, however you say his last name, was in it, and I think that he
was in what? I'm sorry, I
the
missed
core.
It. The core.
You never saw it?
Nope.
Oh, well, it's pretty much about the world about to end.
I didn't get into disaster movies. Were not much on my radar.
There's a handful of them I liked. I just recently rewatched Deep Impact because I completely forgot that I have seen that film.
Here it is. Suspect Zero. FBI agent Thomas McElway, who is played by Aaron Eckhart, is transferred to Albuquerque, New Mexico after he mishandles the arrest of a serial killer. There he's called to investigate the gruesome murder of a salesman who turns out to be a serial killer himself. After 2 more killings, Thomas and his partner Carrie Ann Moss conclude that Benjamin O'Ryan, a former FBI agent with psychic abilities, is responsible for the deaths.
Okay, interesting.
Came out in 2004. But yeah, I remember Kingsley he's almost unnerving in Suspect Zero, because he's kind of gone a little nuts because he's psychic and shit like that. But yeah, that's one of those movies I remember him from.
I like Ben Kingsley,
But-
but he's in like 300 something films though, so
Yeah.
it's really hard to.
Also, Searching for Bobby Fischer, which is where I remember one of the first movies I remember Ben Kingsley from.
I'm gonna go back to Cuba because I've been looking at some of his
Oh, sure.
stuff, and I completely forgot about some of the films that I absolutely love. So you were talking about
Lightning Jack?
I've always loved that. I think Paul Hogan is just great.
Oh, he's wonderful in that movie.
But Rat Race.
He was in
Absolutely,
Rat
yes.
Race, wasn't he?
The cast though of Rat
Oh.
Race was just ridiculously awesome.
Rowan Atkinson,
Yeah.
who I love as an actor in general. It's a race. I'm winning.
He's
narcoleptic.
Yeah, he's narcoleptic. That's the craziest thing.
Because he gets in, he gets the key in, and he falls asleep.
Yep.
Him,
yes.
Breckenmeyer, Amy Smart, John Cleese is in it.
and the
Dave
guy from-
Thomas.
the guy from Grind, who plays like the goofy
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
is
It's
the
him and-
brother with the swollen tongue because he got his.
Yep.
Yep.
It's him and he and another brother essentially in a hot air balloon at some point.
Probably. I
Yeah.
remember.
It's because yeah, it's like teams of two,
Yep.
and yeah, that guy has a buddy who's like I said, they end up in a hot air balloon.
Yeah, I like Rat Race. I think Rat Race is it's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but I would say that
Rowan Atkinson steals that show.
Yeah, he steals it for sure.
Rowan
also-
Atkinson, I can go at great length on how much I love his acting and how funny I think he is.
Yep, he's something. I had a hard time getting into the Johnny English films. It took me a couple watches to actually really appreciate it because it's essentially Mr. Bean.
It's
with-
Mr. Bean with lines.
Yeah, with lines, who's trying to play Bond.
Yeah.
But it has its moments where I'm just like, oh, this is fucking great.
So, and you may not remember this, but do you remember that Rowan Atkinson was in the movie The Witches?
No,
He is I believe he's the manager of the hotel or something like that.
really.
There's a scene with him and like the
This is another one right here. What Dreams May Come.
beautiful movie. Robin Williams is amazing in that movie.
Still one
Again,
of my favorites.
you forget Cuba's in the movie because
Yeah.
Robin Williams steals that fucking show.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite. Like if I had top 10 films of all time, it's on. It's like the top 10
So-
list.
Oh,
And
wonderful
it's-
movie.
and the
It's
crazy-
something everyone should watch.
The crazy thing about it, it's an extremely dark film. It's extremely beautiful at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it has a very
It's so full of color.
Yeah. Oh, it has and no, pun intended with that because it has to do with painting.
Right.
But the concept of heaven and hell, the whole loss and love thing,
Mhm.
that film has everything that just wants to punch you and stab you in the heart and then yet heal you back up.
Right.
And the fact that I always wanted to read the book because
I didn't know it was a book.
yeah, because Richard Matheson, who did I Am Legend, wrote
Oh.
yeah, and Stir of Echoes.
Oh.
Yep, that's a book as well. by
I
Richard
didn't know that
Matheson.
I Am Legend was a book.
Yep.
I always assumed it was based on the Frank Miller novel, which they completely shot through the fucking
No.
floor with.
Um,
If that's what they were doing, but
yeah, so it's a book, and I've always wanted to read. the book.
interesting.
Richard Matheson. What I should do? Well, maybe they'll give me the books. So I don't know. He's written a bunch of shit.
Interesting. I'll have to look at this.
But this is IMDb. I want to get just his. Google.
Yeah.
I've always wanted. I have read I Am Legend, but I don't think I've read anything else of his, and I've been wanting to. And I Am Legend was okay.
See, the movie, my problem with the movie I Am Legend is that it's almost, except for the ending, to me, it's almost a like shot-by-shot remake of The Omega Man, which is a Charlton Heston movie.
Oh, it's essentially the same thing. Yeah. It's
Because, I mean, even down to the beginning when he's driving the sports car down the fucking street, that's the Omega Man.
yeah.
like,
so he did
it's all the same
I Am
shit.
Legend, Hell House. So I Am Legend was 1954.
Damn. Okay.
Hell House, 1971. What Dreams May Come, 1978. The
Interesting.
Shrinking Man, Stir of Echoes, 1958.
Huh.
Yeah, this guy is
Prolific, to say the least.
Oh yeah, and the crazy thing is a lot of his books have turned into films. Like
Interesting.
The Shrinking Man. I've actually seen The Shrinking Man.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
And yeah, What Dreams May Come. I mean, they're it's crazy. This dude's quite amazing.
That's very interesting.
He was born in 1926, died in 2013.
Jesus.
Movies. He wrote The Omega Man.
That explains it then.
Last Man on Earth. So, anyway, Hell House. I know that's a movie as well.
I know I've heard the title. I suppose I wouldn't have known that it was, based on a book.
Yep. One of my favorite voice actors for Audible, R.C. Bray, reads this book, and I pass over it all the time.
Yeah.
But every time I look at it, I stare at it for just a few minutes. I'm like, is that what I want to listen to right now? But What Dreams May Come, man, that is just, like I said, the movie. I love the movie. Robin Williams, just brilliant. It's one of the few times he's not funny.
He has a number of movies where, he does something truly beautiful.
Patch Adams.
Patch Adams, yes. Obviously, Patch Adams is a wonderful thing, which actually, the poem he reads, it's a sonnet by a South American poet named what is his name? Pablo Neruda. He has a book of 100 love sonnets or something like that. That's what he's reading from. Read the whole thing, and it's a very beautiful poem.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But yeah, Patch Adams, What Dreams May Come. I'm trying to remember the other one.
I actually love Jack. I think it's one of his
the ending to Jack. Yeah.
Very underrated films that he did. But then again, that I had such a huge crush on Jennifer Lopez because of that film. I just thought she was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still to this day, she's extremely attractive.
She's another one that's aged very well.
Yeah. She's also kept herself in very excellent shape.
Yep. But yeah, so who I always forget is in What Dreams May Come. Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
Is the tracker.
Maxwell Sydow. I mean, the fact that he was in The Seal, The Seventh Seal. It's
I know the
old
name.
Film by something Bergman.
Ingmar Bergman?
Yeah, old director, but it was 1930s, black and white.
Yeah,
Where he plays, he's a crusader, a knight, who essentially plays chess with death because he's supposed to die. Death is after him.
Oh, I think I've seen that advertised on the Criterion Collection. I think that's listed as one of them.
He's the main guy. That's him.
Okay.
But he's a phenomenal Swedish actor. I think he's from
Is he Swedish?
He's either Swedish or he's Finland. He's somewhere up in that area.
He's European for sure.
Well, Max, and he recently died a couple of years ago because he was in Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Max von Sydow. I've seen so many films of him, and it's almost too much to. Yeah, so Sweden.
Oh, okay.
Almost too much to know because he's just in so much.
Yeah.
100 credited as 163.
It's credited.
So Game of Thrones was the last thing I think I saw him in. He was also in a movie called. Oh crap! I had to watch it for school because we did. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
I've heard of it. I never watched it. I've heard the title though.
It is a beautiful film.
Yeah.
About a guy who gets in a car accident, ends up having a seizure and a stroke or something, and he's had pretty much locked in syndrome.
So he's conscious but he can't move.
Yep, except for his eyes.
Oh, yeah,
so he learned how to talk with his eyes.
Interesting.
And it's a very artistic film. But we did this in my film as a poetry class with Philippe, who I love. Philippe, he's one of my mentors, and he we watched this film and analyzed this.
We're not going
film.
to explain who Philippe is.
No, one of my professors, and oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful film.
Sure.
He plays his father.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
there's such a touching moment, and it's you know. As soon as I saw him, I shouted it out. We were watching the film, like, Max von Sydow. This guy's
sure.
represented. But yeah,
Did-
he's in so much shit.
The fact that he learns to.
Judge Dredd.
Yep. He was the main or the head judge. And he's the one that goes on the long walk to keep Sylvester Stallone from being executed or something like that.
He was also, I think, in wasn't he in Priest, or was that somebody else I'm thinking of?
Priest.
No, I don't
Oh,
think he
with
was
Paul
in
Bettany.
Priest. Yeah, I don't think he was in Priest. I feel like because it's like an older.
I
guy.
don't think I've ever seen Priest. I've seen Legion.
I love Legion.
I thought Legion was great.
Yeah, I thought it was
Tyrese was in it,
badass.
and the actress that's in the main thing
He was in Shutter Island. That's right. The Wolfman. Forgot about that. Yeah.
with Benicio del Toro.
Solomon Kane. That was a good one.
Yeah, James Purefoy.
I actually quite enjoyed Solomon Kane.
I did too. I didn't know much about it, but then when I watched it, I thought it was really well done. It's funny you talk about that guy. I'm gonna move into books for just a minute.
Minority Report.
That word. So when the guy learns to blink to talk,
Mm-hmm.
it reminded me. And I've talked to you before. One of my favorite books is "The Name of the Wind"
I knew you were
by
gonna bring
Patrick
that up.
Rothfuss.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Fuck you. Of course, I'm gonna bring it up at some
Needful
point.
Things. That's right.
Yes, he's the devil in Needful Things.
Yes.
But anyway, there's a part in The Name of the Wind where the main character is stuck in the woods by himself. His family's just been murdered. All he has is his father's loot. And so to cope, sort of, he plays his father's lute, but he's a child, so he doesn't have as much training. So like he teaches himself, and he teaches himself how to play the sounds of the forest. So like he learns how to play a leaf falling in the wind and things like that. That whole thing is like it's how he learns to communicate. And the only reason he goes to civilization is because one of the strings breaks, and then he has to learn how to play with like 3 strings. And he eventually realizes he has to go to the city to get it repaired.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that part of the book because it was very, very, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful part.
Yeah.
The whole book, it's a very slow book. It's
Well,
not
and
as,
like the interesting thing is it's
fast action
a
pace.
fantasy novel, but it's written like an autobiography
yeah.
because he's
Yeah,
dictating it to another person. He's just
Yeah.
telling how he grew up.
Well, in the beginning of it was really misleading too, where they
Yes.
start talking about the spiders.
The
and
spider thing
forest,
that he goes, yeah,
It was like that was quite misleading because all of a sudden it goes, oh, then we're gonna go this way.
right,
I'm like, well, what was that all about? Like,
to give you like an interest in the person.
yep. And
Yeah.
then so I do remember. I know I read that. You let me borrow the book a long time ago, and I think I read.
Did you finally read it? I didn't think
Yeah,
you read it
yeah.
when I lent it to you.
No, not when you lent it to me, but that was like 5 years ago. I don't know. 6
Yeah.
years ago. It was a long time. We were still working at Boulder
Right.
together. But I had read it actually 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. It's right around the time it was either when I was still at DB's or I had started working at Green Mill.
Oh, sure.
One of those around that period.
Yeah, it's a beautifully written book. I think Patrick Rothfuss is a great writer.
I haven't read anything else.
He doesn't really have anything else, like novel-wise. He's got short stories, but he doesn't really have anything.
There's 2 novels and then
There's-
a small little
So
novella.
if you read the second one, The Wise Man's Fear, you're introduced to a character called Ori.
Mhm.
That's what the novella is about, which is the secret regard of silent things, I believe it's called.
Okay.
That's what that novella is about. Is that small side character is about.
Now we were talking about movies, and you said that they were making a series, a TV series,
Of Name of the Wind, they're supposed to be.
or they're supposed to.
Yeah.
I feel like you told me this like 2 years ago.
I know. Everything about The Name of the Wind is like it sets me up, and it leaves me hanging because I've been waiting. I've been waiting like 10 years
Yeah.
for the fucking 3rd book to come out.
Yeah.
Like I read The Name of the Wind years before I met you.
Is it really that old?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been waiting years for the third one, and I finally he finally has a title out. And the other thing though is he's also said that the more people complain, the longer he'll make it take.
He's
so he's spiteful.
George R. Martin.
Essentially, and he also does other stuff. Like he's been on Critical Role.
Yeah. Which, if you don't know anything about Critical Role is a D&D podcast. It's probably one of the most famous ones out there too.
Yep.
Because it has the players and the DM, Matt Mercer, is a professional voice actor, and he's done, I guarantee, you've either played a video game or saw an animation or a cartoon of some sort with him in it. The dude is a very popular voice actor, and then his players, including his wife, are also voice actors. So they really know how to make it interesting because they can do accents and they can really play it in. And anyway, that Critical Role made me want to redo D&D again, and I wish I could be that cool. But continue.
Oh, the third book is called The Doors of Stone, and if you're looking for it, the series of books is called The King Killer Chronicles. I'm trying to read here about. So, yeah. So there's supposed to be a TV adaptation that Lin-Manuel Miranda was set to work on, but there's no real news out of it lately. But that was what had me stoked, was they were supposed to be making a show out of it, and I'm sure everyone would have fucking watched because Lin-Manuel Miranda just put his fucking name on it and somebody would have tuned in.
Yeah.
Not that I have anything wrong or I have any problem with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Hamilton was obviously great.
Yep.
And whatnot. I just think it funny that that was probably going to be the bigger draw. No one was going to give a shit about the actual book.
His name is a mouthful.
Yeah. Don't try to say it if you're drunk.
Yeah, his name is a mouthful, but he's super talented.
Yes.
That's a son of a bitch. He's very talented. And once again, it's another very underrated talent. Fantastic actor.
What is this? Sorry, I got sucked into a Wikipedia page about a book called The Lightning Tree. What is this nonsense?
How do you even spell it?
Lin Manuel. There you go.
Yeah.
Found it.
The first thing I've ever seen this guy in was House. He was in the 7th or 8th season of House, when House goes to a psych ward, and he plays one of the patients. And I just thought his character was so fantastic, and I thought this dude was fantastic as an actor. And I think he does a rap or whatever. Well, this dude is phenomenal at rapping.
He does a rap in Hamilton, I'm pretty sure.
But he's just phenomenal at rapping. And then I went and seen him on Sesame Street very shortly after that, and he's doing this whole rap thing on Sesame Street. And then he just kind of continued to grow and grow and grow. And
dude's talented.
Oh, he's super talented. It's ridiculous. But he's very underrated too. He's very once again, very low key talent.
Yep.
People know who he is.
Yeah.
And the industry and entertainment industry and stuff, they know who the fucking guy is.
I had no idea he'd done so much stuff other than Hamilton. Hamilton seems to be the only thing anyone ever really thinks of, but he's done a lot of other things. He's got at least one other Broadway play.
In the Heights.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's got at least one more. He might have another one, to be completely honest, but he's done a bunch of other stuff besides that.
Yeah, I definitely have an appreciation for him, but first thing I ever saw him was in House. So yeah, 2009 House, and then he was in Sesame Street.
Do you by chance remember the episode of House that had Dave Matthews on it?
Yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite, because also the father who in that 70s show Red, and he was also the bad guy in RoboCop.
Right.
I can't remember his name.
It doesn't matter.
But that guy, he plays the father of Dave Matthews.
I just remember the ending when he's when he went after the surgery and everything, and he's just, Dave Matthews just looks so content at the fact that he can tie his own tie.
Yeah.
He just seems happy, and I'm I don't know why. it didn't strike. It probably would strike me a lot differently now that I'm a father.
Yeah.
I wasn't when I saw that episode, thank God, because I feel like I probably would have turned into some sort of blubbering mess. But
it's a different type of proudness. At the
Yeah,
point where you're,
exactly.
yeah. You can feel the sympathy of the father going, "Oh my God, this is
Yeah.
amazing." And
You know, the sacrifice that the father makes, because I mean,
he's
the guy had an
music
amazing.
savant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and they knew right off the bat that surgery was going to take that away.
Yep. And he would rather have his son be able to do these normal things than
Yeah.
be something special
Right.
kind of thing. And yeah, I love that episode. It is probably one of my favorite episodes. I mean, I love House to begin with. I've always have, but that is one of the episodes I love the most.
Mhm.
And it's because of the power it had. Dave Matthews put on a phenomenal performance. I didn't even know that he acted until that
He's a
episode.
good actor. When the things I've seen him in, like he was in Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Yeah.
He was funny. Like
Yeah.
he was
Plays the
fun.
racist,
Yeah, he's the leader of the racists.
white
He's
supremacist
yelling about
guy.
killing these puppies at the end.
He was also on Just Go With It, and I actually liked him in that.
I don't remember that
He
movie.
plays Nicole Kidman's. It's Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston.
Oh
they
yeah,
go to
yeah,
Hawaii.
yeah.
And I liked him in that.
Yeah?
because he's playing Nicole Kidman's fake boyfriend, who happens to be that he's gay. But it was pretty good. I liked him in that. But anyway, Dave Matthews and House, going back to that, the thing about that episode that it's always stuck me is that when he's in the MRI and he's telling him to play music on like using his leg as a piano key, and it just lights up. His brain just lights up, and the only thing he says, like, that's the music.
Yeah.
And I was like, that always struck me, because it's like he can hear the music, he can hear everything about it.
Well, it's like Matt Damon says in
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, when he's like, you know, Mozart, Beethoven, they could look at a piano and they could just play.
Yep.
Like,
That's,
you know, and he's explaining why he can do math the way he does. He's like,
looks at it and he knows
you know,
it
he's
is.
like, I understand it. You know, and that's just,
Good Will Hunting.
again, Robin Williams, another fucking great performance. He never gets credit for.
Matt Damon really put himself in the spotlight in that one too.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really have anything. That was his like breakthrough.
Well, Tim and Ben Affleck wrote it too.
Yeah, unless you're doing a Family Guy skit where it's Matt Damon writing all night, writing the script, and Ben Affleck's like, "Oh, we got any more pot? We ran out of pot." It's like, "Oh, I'm finally finished. Oh, you're gonna put both our names on there?" Like, it's like, you've been spending all this time smoking pot. But yeah, Robin Williams, man.
Probably,
Damn.
and honestly, like
Damn guy.
Affleck in that movie, I think like that whole scene, like
In
at
the bar?
no,
With
not
the-
even that.
oh.
Like at the end when like, you know, Matt Damon's talking about not taking any of the jobs and being like working on the crew with Ben Affleck, and he's like, dude, like if you do that, I'll fucking kill you. Like
Yeah.
he's like, you don't know it to yourself. You know it to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna be 50. I'm gonna still be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben Affleck, and I like how he has his little brother in it.
Casey Affleck. And Cole Hauser is the fourth guy in that group. Cole Hauser, he's done a number of movies. He's not a big name, but he's done a number of movies.
Name sounds familiar, right?
So he did a movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., where Cuba Gooding Jr. basically let him write a hit list, and yeah, he was in like
Too Fast, Too Furious.
yeah,
Dazed and
he's
Confused.
the gangster in Too Fast Too Furious. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
That's Ashmore. It's
yeah.
one of the Ashmore brothers.
Yeah.
I can't freaking.
yeah, that's Cole Hauser, great actor. He's
is
not in a
this
ton
guy's?
of stuff.
Sean, okay. I can't ever. They're twins,
Yeah.
and I know the difference between them, but for the life of me, I can never know which Ashmore is what.
That's why I always just say
Which
it doesn't
is
matter.
Sean or which one's what? Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah, I can't. I know one was in X-Men and one was in Superman. Both in Smallville though.
Interesting.
That's that's what I mean. Like, they're both in Smallville.
But no, Cole Hauser is the fourth crony in that. But yeah, I think Ben Affleck, you know, talking about the fact that like the best part of his day is going to the door and thinking that today he won't answer because he'll be gone
Yeah.
and he'll have moved on, is probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Obviously, the bench scene is the pinnacle.
That's why it's fucking covered.
Right. You know, the bench scene is the pinnacle of the movie, and will be for all time. But
The improv on that too. I think.
was that improv?
When no, I don't. Not the bench scene. Not that I know of. But I think it's when Robin Williams kept repeating.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, I think that was improv. I think it was one of those.
Interesting.
It was like I think it was Matt Damon literally breaking down at that point because he just got so absorbed into his character.
Damn.
That Robin Williams kept pushing that. He kept pushing, and from my understanding, I think that was all improv.
Interesting.
Yeah, obviously that script, that part,
Right.
and it was the most powerful part of that entire film.
You know, and what's weird is like it's supposed to be, but for me, the bench scene is still more powerful. Like, or at least, like I say, to me it is. What the hell are you looking up? Oh, I just saw the car seat ad on the top, and I got very confused.
Just the amount of films this fucking guy's been in.
Oh, for sure.
I remember his little TV show he had with, was it?
Oh, The Crazies?
Yeah.
With Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Well, okay. I almost said Melissa Joan Hart, but I'm like, that didn't sound right.
Nope.
Yeah, The Crazies right there. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. He's also in a show with Joel McHale too, where he plays like the grumpy old father about Christmas.
Oh yeah, that's a movie they did. What's
A Merry Friggin' Christmas.
Yep, that's it. I remember that. I haven't watched it, but I watched the ad for the trailer for it, and it looked pretty funny.
Yeah, I watched it. I didn't think it was too bad.
So, when he did Mork and Mindy,
He was still on speed.
well, hell yeah, the actress that played Mindy. Do you know what else we both saw her in that we love?
Oh,
Without
God.
looking it up.
No, because I don't even know what she looks like.
Her name is Pam Dauber. She is the mother in Stay Tuned.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love Stay Tuned.
We both love Stay Tuned.
Yeah.
That's one of John Ritter's greatest movies.
Yep. It was one of those nostalgic films where it was just like the ones that we talked about before, High Spirits and
Yeah.
what was the other one we just mentioned? I don't know. High Spirits.
We're talking about High Spirits for sure. And that was Gutenberg.
There was another
Peter
one
O'Toole,
that
Peter
we were talking
Gallagher.
about with it kind of was like a nostalgic feeling. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that's another one I always love. I mean, I have it, but
Yeah.
yes,
I was there when you ordered it. So I know you
yeah.
have it.
God, just the fact that it's hell.
Yep.
It was just like interesting, and I don't know.
The portrayal of hell and the whole way that they're getting souls.
Yep.
But because it basically plays off the idea of sloth, one of the 7 deadly sins. So I mean, that's the really fun part that they took.
Yep. I haven't.
John Ritter is wonderful in that movie, and I will always.
Fantastic in general.
John Ritter in general is a great actor.
Before he died.
Before he passed, he's a shit actor now.
Slays But I absolutely love, and stay tuned. I absolutely love when they go to Three's Company.
Yeah,
that is probably the biggest like shit kick in the heel for.
Because I feel like they got Suzanne Summers and the other chick who I can't remember. I think
like
they got the originals to come back.
I feel like it was too.
And I think it's
We
hilarious.
have to rewatch. I have not watched it forever, but I always and the bad guy,
Jeffrey Jones.
Yes, I love him in just about anything I see him in too. He's known to play some serious roles as well. That's impressed me. I think one of them that comes to mind was he was in the Civil War. He was playing a Civil War general or something like that.
He was in Ravenous.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
That's the only thing I remember from Civil
right.
War. That's the only thing I can remember from.
But the one film I loved the most, where he was the lead, was Mom and Dad Saved the World.
Yep.
And it's John Lovitz that was great.
John Lovitz, Wallace Shawn
Yeah.
is a cameo. Not a cameo, but like he's in there. Eric Idle.
Yeah. Those little mushroom creature things always freak
The
me out.
Lubs.
Yeah, they always freak me out. I just don't know what it was because they're all like, And then they just start. It was like, oh my god, I love that film. Why can't things be made like they used to? Like those are fantastic original films.
Yep.
Now if you do them, nobody would care. They'd have to be put straight to DVD, and it'd be a budget of like, I don't know, 10 million maybe, if they're lucky.
I'm sorry for laughing over that, but I was just thinking about Mom and Dad Save the World.
I have that movie too.
Well, again, I was there when you ordered it. So one day, Tim and I started talking about movies that we loved that we could never find. And we ordered movies like Stay Tuned, Mom and Dad Save the World. I'm going to preface this. We like these movies. We know Jeffrey Jones is a pedophile. As far as I've been told, he got arrested for it. We don't stand with him.
No.
But we love the movies. He was great in them.
He's a great actor. You can't deny that.
He's also in The Devil's Advocate. He's the one that gets beaten up by the bums.
Beaten up by the bums? I don't remember that.
He is murdered, like he's jogging, and two homeless guys beat him to death with branches. That's Jeffrey Jones.
Yes, I remember now.
And Stay Tuned, another great character that no one really remembers is Eugene Levy.
That's right, Beetlejuice. He played the dad in Beetlejuice.
Yep, he did. He was in Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot he was in Howard the Duck. He was in Sleepy Hollow? Interesting.
That's probably the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah, that would make
like
sense.
The mayor or Christina Ricci's father or something.
Something like that, because he's one of the bad guys in the end. Like, they're in cahoots somehow. It's like him and some lady. Yeah.
They're the ones that created this demon that Christopher Walken's was. Which is such an odd role for Christopher Walken's. Because he doesn't talk. He doesn't say anything. He just plays this, I don't know, monster guy.
At that point, I mean, Christopher Walken, who's always been a great actor, I don't think he was super big at that point. So it might have just been that he got the role and he took it.
Christopher Walken's always been big.
I mean, this is way after King of New York, so I mean, he should have been bigger than that. But
one film I had trouble watching, I'm kind of sidetracking from going back to Robin Williams, was it Fisher King?
The Fisher King?
The Fisher King?
With Jeff Bridges?
Yeah. I had a hard time with that, but there's a scene, and it has nothing to do with Robin Williams, but there's the beginning scene. It's a hell of a way to start a fucking film, by the way. Is you have Jeff Bridges, who's on top of the world, playing this radio star hit guy, making rich money or whatever, and then there was like this robbery that like went wrong, or no, there was a guy who called in the show, and he was like a fan or something like that. But then Jeff Bridges pretty much talked down to him and said he was like this lazy slob fat guy or something like that. And he had
killed himself.
He made a threat about shooting up someplace, and he does. And because of him and the way that it happened, and this dude actually shoots up this place and shoots himself.
Cause he was supposed to get his own TV show and stuff like that, and then he ends up not getting any of that.
And because of that, he ends up losing his job, and then he finds Robin Williams, who's this homeless guy who has a mental disorder.
I think he's delusional. He's delusional. He's got a psychosis. He thinks he's one of the Knights of the Round Table.
Something, yeah.
Well, that's where the Fisher King comes from. It's Arthurian legend.
Because he's like in the park.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting film. But
there's a scene that Robin Williams has like a breakdown where like he thinks that like people like knights are coming to murder him.
And he like runs around town.
And it's fucking terrifying.
Oh, man. That I have that film somewhere too, but that was one of those
It's a hard film to watch.
It is.
I just recently watched it again too.
It's just the beginning of that film. That's a hell of a way to start a film.
Well, I mean, they definitely got the fall from grace out of the way.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember there's a point where Jeff Bridges was like watching TV, and he sees the show he was supposed to get with like his tagline or his like punchline and everything, and some other actor doing it.
Yep.
And he just freaks out.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, it's 12:42. Talking for 2.5 hours
about movies.
We
talked about trying to, put other stuff into this. We got off on movies for 2.5 hours.
Yep. Well, should we kind of close it up?
Yeah, this thing's about that time.
Well, that was our movie banter right there,
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
I mean, that's the whole name of the podcast is
Name of the
Banter
game. This is how Tim and I's discussions are. Whether we get into music, get into books, or we get into whatever the hell else we get into, it'll be very meandering and very
tangent.
very one-sided. Like we'll go on one-sided tangents for a while.
Oh my goodness. That's where we hope we can entertain you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we want to thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Hope to have you come back if you like the podcast. Rate, subscribe, whatever you're listening on. Try to give us a 5-star rating.
Do it, please. But yeah, we'll catch you next time. So thanks for tuning in.
Later.
Bye. Stop.